How's it going, everybody? So I wouldn't say this is going to be super long, but probably longer than maybe first thought because we're going over the long list and the nominations list for BAFTA. Because, boy, were there a lot of snubs in a lot of things, some of which I didn't see coming, that makes the race possibly more interesting.
Um, I'm pretty annoyed because we did our predictions pre-BAFTA, and the thing was when we were doing that, it was at first I was like, well, we should wait till BAFTA comes out, but then I thought, well, we've got the long list, and that pretty much gave us all the answers I feel like we needed in order to do predictions, and that's not the case. They came out, and it's like, well, once again, I wish we had waited. Because I don't know what conclusions you guys have to draw on like a grand scale as far as what happened when BAFTA came out, but I have one conclusion, like one major conclusion that I came to based on what the BAFTA nominations were, and unfortunately, my predictions do not reflect it. So I don't like that. I mean, I like it for this movie, but I wish I had shown as much faith in this movie as I did before.
And there's your cold open, everybody. Welcome. I am Ashley, uh, MC for this shindig. Joined as ever by AJ and Owen.
Yeah.
Hello, Internet.
Just, yeah. Um, we'll go category by category, as is listed on the Wikipedia page. Which means,
Actually,
casting is going to be significantly higher up on the list.
since my one statement covers multiple categories, I figured I'd just start with it really quick,
Yeah, go ahead.
and then as we go, it would kind of add up to that.
Yeah.
So, like I said, it's really just one sentence I can say based on BAFTA. Well, no, there's a little bit of backup. Okay. So, obviously, Randolph is conquering supporting actress, and it's basically like nobody else in supporting actress should even show up because Randolph has basically planted her flag.
Yeah.
And I understand if people think Anatomy of a Fall is really high in original screenplay. I feel like a lot of that's mainly coming from the Globe win, which doesn't really mean anything. If I remember correctly, didn't Sorkin win the Globe for Steve Jobs and he wasn't even nominated?
I believe so.
So I would like for Anatomy of a Fall to be a major contender in original screenplay, and it is. But if you were to ask me, I would honestly say, like, even before BAFTA, I probably would have said, if you were to have me predict original screenplay right then and there, I would have probably said The Holdovers. Especially since Barbie moved.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've got Giamatti gunning for the win. Like, it was kind of like, oh, it's probably going to be Cillian Murphy, but man, Giamatti's right there. And now it feels like we're literally just waiting for SAG and BAFTA to show us. And like we were saying before, there's a really good chance SAG and BAFTA are going to split on them.
Very good chance.
And with his veteran status and how this movie is being embraced, I wouldn't be surprised if Giamatti ends up taking over the actor race before the season's over.
Wouldn't be shocking.
So if we're talking hypothetically,
sure,
if that were to happen, the Holdovers would have 3 major wins in actor, supporting actress, and original screenplay. Now let's look at the fact that Payne refuses to miss. Payne got 2 really great mentions with BAFTA and DGA.
Yep.
So if there's going to be a major director snub, Payne is going to be the one that does it. Like, if we lose Scorsese or Lanthimos or something, Payne will be there.
For sure.
So and take in the fact that supporting actor has a lot of vulnerable spots right now.
Oh yeah.
And this is what I was talking about, where we needed to wait longer than just the long list. Because when you saw Dominic Sessa on the long list, it was like, oh, that's a good get for him. That's a good inclusion. Good for you. And then he actually gets nominated above a lot of other choices that seemed really, really prevalent in the race.
Yeah.
So the one statement I want to make following up BAFTA, and maybe people will agree with me, take into account the possible winners of Giamatti and original screenplay and the definite winner of Randolph, and you take Payne getting in. If Tuesday comes and Payne gets in and Dominic Sessa gets in,
We got a new contender.
I think the Holdovers is in the top two. It's Oppenheimer and the Holdovers.
The holdover, I'd say AJ right now at this point, it was literally down to Poor Things versus Holdovers for what was challenging Oppenheimer, and BAFTA has shown us that the Holdovers is here to play.
Yeah,
And it's not a fluke at all.
and I was
And
gonna
it's
say,
not either.
I was gonna say I don't want to sound like it's like when one group of nominations comes out and then everybody starts jumping the gun.
Mm.
There's multiple factors from multiple places that make it feel like the Holdovers is in the top two at this point. So, like I said, with the likelihood of Payne, and because I've made the argument before that even at supporting, it's really rare for them to go with a young actor.
Oh yeah.
And how we had the whole conversation about how Lucas Hedges almost felt like an anomaly when you look at young actors in recent times. But there's like so many vulnerable spots in supporting actor now.
Yeah.
You've got what, Downey and Gosling, and then who the fuck knows?
At this point, yeah, I'd say so.
So with that many spots open and Sessa getting the BAFTA nomination, when the movie seems this rallied around, if I don't know if I would still argue this if, like, you know, Sessa missed or something, but like surely the combination of if Payne gets in and if Sessa gets in, that says that the Holdovers is right there, like right up there.
Well, I'll give you a comparison. We forget about last year because last year doesn't matter for many reasons. But I'll go back to 2022. Obviously, it has the same path except for one big time exception, and that's the fact that we didn't have a juggernaut in 2022. But when I look at the Holdovers and how I feel that it's going to be, what it's going to do potentially on Tuesday, the thing that comes to my mind is a more in the game version of the Fablemans. The Fablemans narrative pushed higher to be what the Holdovers is going to be this season, or could be this season.
Well, I will say, I'm sure there's an argument people are already making. Even though I can't see the chat, I'm sure somebody's probably already said something or is about to say something. The only thing that people would say makes this untrue is the lack of SAG Ensemble nomination for the Holdovers.
That is kind of discerning, to be quite honest.
But
with one thing.
That, and like we were saying, a lot of stuff weirdly underperformed at SAG.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know how much that meant. Well, I do feel like, though, it was relatively recent. We had a movie win picture without a SAG Ensemble nomination. Like The Shape of Water probably didn't. And I feel like there was an even more recent example, but I'm not positive. But yeah, and you know, statistics aren't in concrete.
No, of course not.
And that's proven quite a bit. So I feel comfortable in saying that if the Holdovers gets those two other nominations on nominations morning, that it's at least in the top two. Because Killers and Poor Things keep doing not as much as we think they could.
Right.
Interestingly. So I mean, we've been hinting for a while about Killers potentially underperforming, but there's still some, like, the fact that De Niro has not missed is interesting. The fact that Gladstone missed a major nomination before De Niro did is really interesting to me.
And it's got to make you feel confident at this point that you are the only one of the three of us that went with the editing nomination for Holdovers, which is something that it definitely needs in order to be in that race even further, like Brian alluded to in chat.
I do feel really good about that.
I would too right now, and I do not feel good at all.
Like I even said in the prediction video, it was weird that I felt specifically confident in it. It wasn't like, oh, this is my no guts, no glory. This is my Hail Mary. No, I felt really confident about putting the Holdovers in editing. So that's something.
And your verbiage came out that way too. Like you were more confident in the fact that you thought that that's exactly the direction it was going to go, and that's before you knew what BAFTA was going to do. And now we know what BAFTA did. Yeah, this is very possible. The Holdovers is a real contender at this point. It's definitely top 3 right now, regardless.
Yeah, the one I was nervous about putting in editing ended up being Poor Things, which did make BAFTA. So that's, we'll see what happens with that slot. But
not comfortable with my predictions right now, to say the least.
Yeah, I feel like I don't have much to say about BAFTA other than that. Like that's the one thing where it really feels like a statement was made. Though you could say Anatomy of a Fall kind of came into the BAFTA swinging also. So
sure.
I just want to know. Tuesday needs to get here so we can be put out of our misery. I need to know what the fucking director lineup's gonna be, because fucking Bradley Cooper. I said, oh, Maestro hasn't been overperforming the way it was, and so like, I'm kind of losing faith in Cooper being a director. And then here comes BAFTA, and not only that, but they knocked out Scorsese, which is what I did in my previous prediction in order to do it. So there's a lot of stuff going on. But at the same time, like I said, I think that's about the extent of the points I wanted to make. Everything else, I guess, is just going to be a general. Unless anybody has anything else.
Well, I will say that it's a conversation we had off camera. And the fact that we've talked about many times that I've been saying Pain forever and a day, but when we got down to the end, I was like, he'll get into DGA. And I believed he was always going to get there. And I had confidence in Pain before the Holdovers literally started taking over. And then I lost confidence. And that's my biggest problem at this point.
I had confidence in Pain for a while because I was always a firm believer that they love Pain except for downsizing.
Yeah.
Like I said, by the time in 2013, I felt like I was kind of an outsider when I never backed down on him getting in for Nebraska.
Right.
And obviously, lo and behold. So, yeah, it almost seems like it was always here. It just took these BAFTA nominations to really say.
Well, since you started off the show with your declaration, Ashley, you want to go into chat before we go into the long list?
Yeah. Bry says they've done their final predictions on their channel, and throughout the podcast we'll be revealing what predicted as we go by the BAFTA categories. Also noting that holdovers would also have to get in for film editing.
Yep.
Which I wouldn't rule out.
Not at all.
Josie says, hey, sorry I'm late. No worries. I was watching How to Blow Up a Pipeline. I don't think Poor Things missing directing and supporting actors too much of a death doornail because it got everywhere else that it needed to.
For sure. I don't think it's hurt at all. There's one movie that's hurt right now.
Well, the thing about it missing supporting actor at BAFTA is that when you're talking about Poor Things, it missed supporting actor twice.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Bry mentioned Shape of Water, Green Book, and Nomadland. I don't know what that's... Whether that's relating to editing, I'm not sure.
I believe so. I think that was the conversation we're talking about.
That could also be a SAG Ensemble thing.
No, it wasn't. That's right. That's what it is. It's got to be SAG Ensemble.
Yeah. I was thinking... Oh, did Nomadland? I was thinking it did, but maybe it didn't. I don't remember. That year is a blur.
So,
Two categories where Poor Things missed were juried. I think everything was juried, to be fair. If you actually look into the details as to how it works, so many of them get in automatically, and then the rest is like the top 3 or 4 from voting from members and everything. Killers took a big hit at BAFTA. Not just that. 70s style dissolves could certainly get holdovers into editing.
yeah.
Also, Counting Crows is Mr. Jones is on the radio today, Josie notes. Bry also says, now we're questioning if a woman's going to get in for director or not. If it's the news media, they're going to complain. Maybe you're just looking at the wrong woman.
I was gonna say I really like Trier making BAFTA. That's really cool.
Besides Poor Things, what other big contender could you see missing editing?
Killers.
Yeah.
You know,
which doesn't feel right because of the circumstance.
I've been wondering something. This is probably not it. I'm just saying this is a thought that crossed my mind. Again, for any overzealous people, this is just something that crossed my mind. I'm not saying this is what I'm thinking Tuesday. I can't get over the fact that we all started to think so much that the Zone of Interest was going to be the last minute here I am choice, that everybody in the world started dogpiling on it enough to where there's nothing surprising about it.
Nope.
Almost to the point that I wonder if we're overestimating it.
Could be.
Because everybody wanted to jump so much on that's going to be the surprise. We have to say that before they get us. And now everybody's saying the Zone of Interest. And then the PGA mention just completely made that whole thing devoid. So, yeah, I almost wonder if the Zone of Interest is actually being over-predicted now. But like I said, that's just a thought that crossed my mind. I'm not saying that's some theory.
An AJ theory.
I was waiting.
Don't do that. Don't just don't do that.
I got to do it while I still can.
It was inevitably going to happen at some point.
Of course.
Interesting how earlier in the season we brought up the possibility of Scorsese being the Villeneuve and he missed BAFTA. I kept entertaining the idea as a joke, though I thought it'd be dumb if Nolan is the Villeneuve or Ben Affleck of the season.
Don't fucking say it.
Say that.
No. As is the typical. We got to bring Michael Clark Duncan into this and say, "Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby? Just don't do it."
I said that literally out loud today.
Josie's saying that all the acting categories and directing is juried, but the rest is popular vote.
There you go.
I mean, it makes sense with the acting because they're still sticking to their guns with the 6, because I think it's like 3 automatically get in, and then the other 3 is, making up the numbers sort of thing. Yeah, Bry mentions for 2020's SAG stuff, the nominees were The Five Bloods, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Minari, One Night in Miami, and the winner was Trial of Chicago 7. So Nomadland didn't even get nominated.
Yeah, that was back when The Five Bloods was actually getting the respect it deserved.
True.
I keep forgetting how much One Night in Miami just did not do what it was projected to.
It's another year I didn't watch everything.
Which sucks because One Night in Miami is great, but there was a lot of underperformance. Because Ma Rainey, I felt like kind of underperformed also because it was 2020 had a lot of curveballs, but I'm getting us off the rails. But
Josie also happy that Trier got into BAFTA. Zone of Interest may have not super overperformed at BAFTA, but getting director, screenplay, and a supporting actress nod, in addition to the text, is a big get.
Yeah, it did do well overall.
Yeah, it's been doing well.
That's the thing is, it's like if it really is still going to be, there's always the one that surprises us.
Mm-hmm.
That means there's one that's off our radar right now that's not the zone of interest.
Well, there's correct answers to that, but I'm sure they're not going to go with them. So
Yeah.
So as ever, we start with the popularity contest.
oh, this thing.
The Rising Star Award, which
How do we do this without turning it into a prediction video? Because I just instinctively almost said I feel like it's Jacob Elordi.
I
And it's
feel
like, wait,
that
that's
I
the
have
video,
to
isn't
do
it?
this. I feel that I have to do this because one, British skew, and two, it's the British public that vote on it. It's not anybody else. It's people that, you know, have phones or internet or whatever that vote through EE, the sponsor's website and everything. So it's probably skewing to, you know, going back to the Critics' Choice, we're skewing to the young demographic, I would say, to some extent. And, you know, not that I'm trying to tell you who to predict, and I'm trying to make sure that everybody predicts the same thing, but I feel there is a major contender that people need to be aware of why they're a major contender.
I think I know the answer. I'm not
probably
sure.
isn't for the film stuff. So the 5 contenders are Phoebe Denver, who is being listed because of her performance in Fair Play. That, you know, erotic psychological thriller that I think barely got released over here. So she was also in Bank of Dave, but apparently nobody wants to know that exists for some reason. And then they actively hyped that she's appearing in Anniversary, this film with Diane Lane, which who knows what that is. Obviously most people would know her from Bridgerton rather than any of her film work. So, interesting choice. The one that makes the most sense, for considering her list of what she's done this year, is Io Edebiri, which obviously she's been getting a lot for The Bear, but when you look at that, she was in Theatre Camp, Bottoms, The Sweet East, and doing voiceover work for both Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. She has the body of work for sure for this year.
It's nice to actually see somebody getting that much work at one time, and you can actually say, I get it. They're talented enough to work that much.
Sure.
Because I feel like a lot of the time it's here's this person that mysteriously appeared that we're going to put in 20 different things that really isn't that great, and you don't know why they're popular, but they were kind of forced on us. I love that she's not that at all.
That doesn't even include the fact that on television this year alone, well, for 2023, she was in Abbott Elementary, History of the World Part 2, Mulligan, that she's also writer and co-producer on Netflix, Kith, which is an American South African animated series that's on the Disney Channel, writer and creative consultant on Eric Andre show, the voice of Harriet Tubman in Clone High, that's also from Lord and Miller. She was a VR shopping spree host in one of the episodes of I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson. And she showed up in Black Mirror in 2023 as well.
Yeah.
Along with the bear. So what I'm saying is, yes.
She has such a body of work. I'm a big fan of hers now, and I don't even watch The Bear. That's how expansive her work
and
is.
her next project is an A24 horror film, also starring Murray Bartlett and John Malkovich, and Juliette Lewis.
Wow. Give me that today.
Then we have Jacob Elordi, who admittedly also has a pretty good film capacity, with also being in Sweet East. Also, He Went That Way, the crime drama thing with Zachary Quinto, along with the two big ones of being Saltburn and Priscilla. Then we have Mia McKenna Bruce, who really broke out with How to Have Sex. The one that's been bubbling under the radar on at least the British independent scene. I'm not trying to give you a clue as to what I think might win in later categories, but keep that in mind. She was also in Kindling, that also got quite a bit of praise. A British drama thing. Most people might know her internationally from her appearance in that god awful Persuasion Netflix thing from a couple of years back. Well, from last year or whatever. That happened. But the key thing to note about her is for many, 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 many years, if I look at the way it's from 2010 through to 2018 in some shape or form, she was involved in the Tracy Beaker TV series. She was in Tracy Beaker Returns for a few years, and then when that spun off, when the actress playing Tracy Beaker didn't want to do it anymore, at least, for a little bit, it then evolved into The Dumping Ground, and I think she did 5 years in that. So in terms of young people over here, she's probably the most well known. So there's definite chance for her to also get this. I'm not saying it's a 2-horse race, because it sort of isn't, because so far all 4 are pretty good moves. And then, depending how you look at it, Sophie Wilde's also in here, who's in, I don't even know what this is. It's a film called The Portable Door, which has Patrick Gibson, Sam Neill, her, and Christoph Waltz, amongst others, which apparently is on some channel in possibly Australia called Stan. I don't know what that is.
I was gonna say I heard Sam Neill, and my immediate thought was this must be Australian. But then I remembered, oh yeah, because she's the girl in Talk to Me, which is also Australian, so that makes sense.
Yeah, that's technically that's 2022, but everybody else got to see it in 2023. And at least over here, she was Sophia Weston in a new 4-part adaptation on ITV of Tom Jones. And I think she's also, she's the lead in Everything Now that's been on Netflix for the past couple of months. And she's also in I don't know whether it's upcoming or it's actually come out. There's a Australian series as well called Boy Swallows Universe that I think has been receiving pretty good stuff. So there's a list there. I feel that Phoebe is in the weakest position of the 5. Because I didn't really see much of it doing well on Netflix when it was put up there. It's got good critic reviews at least, but the fact that I didn't even realise that the film existed kind of was a bit of a weird one, but that's the most competitive list that I've seen in a while. But I'm just letting you know that, considering what happened a few years back with what was his name from Empire of Light, Michael Ward.
Yeah.
Him coming from the similar sort of background that Mia's from, was big on television. Keep that in mind. But there's enough names here that I really don't know where it could go. for a change. There's nobody that I don't think has a chance of not winning this. It depends how the public want to vote it.
Yeah, because before you said that about me and McKenna Bruce, my mind immediately just went to Jacob Elordi. So
Yeah. But
I'll
I think
maybe when
Edda Berry's certainly in with a shout because she was in, 2 very popular animated films. And, people are beginning to praise the bear over here as well.
that would be fantastic.
I hope, Phoebe Dynevor's obviously got a following. Sophie Wilde is beginning to sort of pop up on the radar, so in that respect, I wonder whether Elordi's actually sort of maybe the odd one out. Because he'd be popular with some people, but at the same time, he also did the Kissing Booth series. But then that was popular on Netflix, even though they're not that good. So. And
Wait,
of course, the Euphoria
something-
connection as well.
Something that was really popular on Netflix wasn't actually good. That's absurd. Who would think such a thing?
I'll briefly go over the short stuff. Best British short animation. Take 7 shots. Has Crab Day, Visible Mending, and Wild Summon. The film with a diver, narrated by Marianne Faithfull. So there's your Mick Jagger / Keith Richards link of the evening. But that is one that is Oscar tipped, so that sort of makes sense. And then, of course, we get to British short film, where we have Festival of Flaps, Gorka, Jellyfish and Lobster, Such a Lovely Day, and Yellow. Which is notable, of course, because, again, going back to that local television broadcast where they were hyping up that film, what the One Note Man, saying how it was BAFTA nominated. It didn't make it in. So it's official. The local news has cursed the movie. They should demand reparations. Yeah.
I only have 2 comments about the shorts. One being, I'm guessing Wild Summon is the best bet because it's the only one with a Wikipedia page. And it's Festival of Slaps, what we're also going to call the 2022 Oscars.
I'm only saying Wild Summon is the likely winner, not just because of the BAFTA page, but because it's in the Oscar list, in the short list. And we've seen in previous years how if anything is somehow in the Oscar list, it usually makes it in the BAFTA list. Unless it's One Note at a time, in which case, no fun. So then first time in a while, I think we've seen this with the stuff. Well, there isn't a huge amount.
Hit chat before we get out of after we get out of shorts.
Well, there isn't a huge amount. I mean, Josie says if best film at BAFTA was 10 nods, Zone would have got in at Shaw. Yeah, more than likely.
Oh, yeah.
Probably would have been like 6 or 7, yet not like the lower end. Imagine if as Anatomy of a Fall wins international, Zone of Interest gets British film because it's the UK entry. Interesting. You think that? Barry Keoghan is rumoured to be dating Sabrina Carpenter. Okay.
Josie, I should probably come up with some sort of a nonsense outro, but I can't think of one off the top of my head. But I have a feeling it probably involves both Saltburn and Banshees. You make it up yourself. I'm sure she'd do a great job with it.
Bri calling this out. If they're dating, it just shows how many female celebs in their 20s or 30s just like older men, since he's 31 and she's only 8 months older than Bri.
Your point, Brian? Like, shoot, your point?
And then Bri for Oscars for documentary short had ABC's A Book Banning Black Girls Play, Camp Courage, A Deciding Vote, and If Dreams Were Lighting. And then for live action short, Anne Frank Gift Shop, Invisible Border, Night of Fortune, Red, White and Blue, and the Henry Sugar movie.
That's my lineup.
So yeah, for the first time in, I think, a while, the outstanding debut by writer, director, or producer actually has director in all 5 films. Because we have Is There Anybody Out There, which is just outright director on its own for Ella Glanderling. Then How to Have Sex is Molly Manning Walker, who is both writer and director. Then Earth Mama, which is Savannah Leave, who's writer, director, and producer on the project, along with Shirley O'Connor, producer, and Meb Riordan, producer. Then Bobby Wine, the People's President, formerly Bobby Wine, Ghetto President, the documentary, with Christopher Sharp as director. It mentions also directed by Moses Bawayo. So whether he is not a first-time director or not, I'm not sure. They don't usually mention that. I don't know. And then Blue Bag Life, with Lisa Selby as director, Rebecca Lloyd Evans as director and producer, and Alex Fry as producer. But yeah, a director is acknowledged in all 5 films for the first time in, as I say, a while. Usually there's like 3, maybe 4, but there's always one that's only writers or producers. So
Actually, the weird thing about that is, based upon what else it's nominated for, I'm kind of surprised we missed out on Scrapper and Rye Lane on this too.
yeah, that's. I mean, Earth Mama's the one that showed up at Spirits, right?
I believe so.
The really funny thing is, it's outstanding debut by a British writer, director, or producer. It only just opened like a month ago because it was like I was out in July in America, even though it's somewhat a British film. I mean, it's film 4, so it is to some extent. Then we get an interesting list. I'll give you as a clue as to which one I think should have been replaced by The Great Escape. For outstanding British film, we have All of Us Strangers, How to Have Sex, Napoleon, The Old Oak, Poor Things, Rye Lane, Saltburn, Scrapper, Wonka, and Zone of Interest. I don't think there was that much outstanding about Napoleon at all. But yeah, as you rightfully say, Owen, the fact that this is the only place where Rye Lane and Scrapper's appearing and not acknowledging the others, that's
That was strange.
kind of surprising. How to Have Sex, I thought, was a sort of shoe-in for debut, yet alone, outstanding British film. But yeah, the fact that 2 that got just as critically praised as How to Have Sex, and Poor Things and Zone of Interest, that obviously are further up in the queue as well, sort of only make it in here. Which makes me wonder, if that's the case, How to Have Sex looks like a strong contender for debut, which means then you have the other 9 for outstanding British. Sorry, the other 8 and Napoleon. If Napoleon wins now, this is going to be mark it, clip it. It's like it's a shame to see Great Escape didn't make it in, considering how well received that was, and how, at least in some capacities, Napoleon wasn't, because of Historical inaccuracies. Anyway, moving on to special visual effects.
The order is so messed up. Okay, I gotta find it.
Where we have Creator, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, because that's the official title now. It is no longer Part 1. And then Napoleon and Poor Things. So they followed the trend and did not have Oppenheimer in here.
So the UK Oscars and the regular Oscars both snubbed Oppenheimer.
Yes.
That makes sense. Hey, Spider-Man didn't get in.
Yeah, that makes it interesting as well.
So I've been meaning to watch it like all week, and it just seems like too much of a chore. I will eventually, but what kind of visual effects are used for Napoleon? Is it just like backgrounds or
Battle sequences, maybe, and some of the gore. That's the only thing that comes to my mind.
I mean, probably the bit that everybody hates. The bit where Napoleon knocks the nose off the Sphinx.
Yeah,
That'd obviously have to be VFX.
Napoleon kind of just did what normal movies that I don't care about do. They just kind of go through my eyes, and then after that, they just go out my mind. I don't think about them at all, so I haven't paid them any mind since, and I don't plan on doing it ever since, no matter what the tech categories of the Oscars are trying to do to me.
Yeah.
People hated the creator, but I mean, the visual effects are fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird how like the creator just isn't great at all, but the effects are amazing.
Yeah, they are.
But you see, I really do like Mission Impossible.
Same.
But this is not the category I would put it in. There's so much obvious. You know exactly where all the green screens are in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
maybe for the opening scene, it's more. It fits more, but like with the big ones, especially the whole climax.
Oh, yeah.
Not just him jumping, but also when they're in the train as it's falling.
Sure.
It just looks like they're about to fall into a green screen.
Yeah, it does.
And I don't know if it did the movie in by showing us his jump pre-effects so many times, because we know what the set really looked like, so it's really clear they just animated over it. So I don't know.
Your point is more proven in the Dolby Digital screening that I watch, which was a bigger screen, and you definitely tell even more so when it's a bigger screen how fake it truly is.
See, would special visual effects include the fact that they just chucked a train off a cliff? That's the thing as well.
This is not the first time visual effects have been a hindrance to Mission Impossible, because if you didn't know that he and Henry Cavill actually did that halo jump in Fallout, they're covered in so much effects because of that storm. You would never suspect it's real, that they're actually falling. And it's like that. I wish the Mission Impossible movies would kind of improve on that, where it's like, it's great that you do the real stunts, but then you bring the effects in and they start to look fake when they're not.
I still think back to Mission Impossible 1 and the whole red light, green light climax, where he jumps from the helicopter back onto the thing, and it's like, dear Lord, this is I've seen better green screen in Tron from 1982. And then for best sound, we have Ferrari, Maestro, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, Oppenheimer, and Zone of Interest. Which probably fits the bill. You've got your action stuff, you've got your war stuff, you've got your sport stuff, and you got your music stuff.
Hey, that Ferrari thing's not looking so out of place now, is it?
All bases covered.
I'm still just. The thing that worries me more about Ferrari is if I made a mistake putting it in makeup or not.
I'm still not sure. We'll see in a couple days.
To the chat, Bri for animated short. Oscar has Boom, Eva, I'm Hip, Letter to a Pig, and 95 Senses. Josie mentions when I saw Poor Things the second time yesterday, my friend, who's a big Evanescence fan, and Josie both sang Bring Me to Life when Bella got reanimated. And when Bella's had it with Duncan, cue Call Me When You're Sober by Evanescence.
I don't like Evanescence much anymore, Josie, because it's been driven into the ground like Linkin Park, but I will say that both of your references make perfect sense to me, and I approve.
Josie's my boy Harris Dickinson.
Heck yeah, let's go.
As a girl, I find him super hot and he's a great up-and-coming actor. I can't wait to see him in Blitz.
You buy his action figure too, Josie?
I was gonna say, was there a segue there, or are we just randomly on Harris Dickinson now? Not that I'm complaining. Did I miss a segue?
No, you didn't miss a segue. I will say A24 is putting out Iron Claw figures next month.
Okay.
Very excited about that.
Also, Disarmed by Smashing Pumpkins on the radio today. My ever-growing hate for Billy Corgan.
Likewise.
Best VFX. Best VFX for Bry, Creator, Godzilla, Guardians, Poor Things, and Spider-Man. Josie saying, I'll be really mad if Godzilla -1 misses VFX. I don't think it will. I'm sort of surprised that it didn't make it in long list over here. Yet, Wonka did.
Here's my question.
And Barbie to some extent.
I've been debating if I want to watch Godzilla -1. I may have a chance to do so Friday with the Zone of Interest, in case something doesn't come out, because I need something to pair with it, because I'm not just going for one movie. I'll watch other things. I've pretty much knocked out most of the Oscar movies that are possibly going to get nominated on Tuesday twice already, so I don't have much to check out at this point.
Is it the Godzilla -1 minus color?
I think I have color. I think I've seen them. It's one of the two. I know there's an option for both of them. I don't know if they're both playing at the same time. I'm debating. I might. I don't know. And best sound.
I just love the fact that the official title, though, is Godzilla -1 minus color. This is brilliant. Joe's saying Top Godzilla, make it happen. And then Bry's sound Oscars is Ferrari, Killers, Maestro, Oppenheimer, and Zone of Interest. Right, so to production design, where we have Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and Zone of Interest. Can't remember any of us whether predicted that in the Oscars. Probably.
I think I went inspired with Asteroid City, and I really want to see it get at least one nomination on Tuesday.
I think I said Maestro instead of the Zone of Interest.
Oh, look at it. I have everybody's predictions right in front of me, actually.
But I also specifically said that I wanted to go with something like Saltburn or Asteroid City, but I thought they would be boring. So I said Maestro.
Yeah, Barbie, Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and I said Asteroid, Barbie, Killers, Oppie, Poor Things. Ashley said Barbie, Moon, Oppie, Poor, and Asteroid City. Yes, I've been putting Oppie on the thing when it's small letters.
I think it was Oppie Poor together that made me laugh.
Poor.com, let's go. Reptar -1.
Problem is, because you keep saying Oppie, I keep thinking back to Good Luck Oppie from like a year or two back.
Oh no! That's a very fine assessment.
Just say
Which is funny because if I remember correctly, that movie awards-wise had bad luck. That was the everybody loves this documentary until we're talking about documentary awards, and then
What you're talking about was Still this year that I hope you're wrong for my predictions, but I understand you very well could be right.
It's fun. I just realized it's funny that she said Reptar -1 because Reptar's on my shoulder right now.
That's a shoot. 1,000,000%. There's Reptar. I'm still butthurt I can get that candy bar because we don't have an FYE close enough. That would have been a great snack to do.
Then
Production design for Brian, same as BAFTA.
for original score, we have Robbie Robertson for Killers of the Flower Moon, Ludwig Göransson for Oppenheimer, Jerskin Fendrix for Poor Things, Anthony Willis for Saltburn,
There we go.
and Dan Pemberton for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Was Saltburn shortlisted for the Oscars? I can't remember.
Let me double check. Yes. It was in the 15. No.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm just double checking that it was 15 because the way the bars are, like, that doesn't look like 15 lines.
I did predictions based on those lists and the ones I had to guess on with everything else.
Yeah. Same
Like
here, it's just it didn't look... I guess it makes sense because there's only 10 in the makeup and hair list there, but...
Next.
Speaking of makeup and hair, I didn't realise that was next. Damn it. Makeup and hair has Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things.
Didn't go with Ferrari.
The Napoleon mentions are very interesting. The fact that there's more than one and that there's been more than two is quite interesting.
Quite concerning.
And obviously what also hasn't been showing up a lot so far in this has been Barbie.
Mm-hmm.
Missing out on quite a bit because, you know, people brought it up. You know, it had, I think, 15 long list mentions. And when we get round to it by the end, you'll find that it only has 5 actual nominations. So there's a lot of things it missed out on.
If Barbie ends up underperforming after I was on that train for like 4 months,
then again, you know,
I've since had I've had a slight turnaround. I'm still not going all in on it or anything. I'm not going fucking Critics' Choice on it or anything, but I did shift to, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing actually. Because I started at Barbie's going to underperform, then I shifted to Killers is going to underperform, but then when we did our final predictions, I don't really have Killers underperforming. So, well, I took it out of screenplay, and I started doing the taking Scorsese out thing, and then I switched back, so we'll see what the fuck happens with that. What are the odds we have more than one movie underperform? I'm not saying Killers and Barbie are going to underperform exactly, but like, what if more than one movie like really underperforms?
Pretty good, actually. Like, you talk about when you were talking about the world going crazy for Maestro, like it was the next Slumdog. What if we get everything announced on Tuesday and we find out that Maestro wasn't as much of a juggernaut as we thought, and then it like just gets like Carrie and Cooper misses director, and it even misses screenplay. I mean, it may not do as well as you think it will either. We don't know.
I'm starting to think director is not going to be an indicator of something overperforming or underperforming because director's just so fucking crazy. That's like how like people talk about, you know, the Villeneuve snub for Dune. And it's like you could say that's technically Dune underperforming, but Dune still got 10 nominations.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is not an underperformance, but you can still have one major snub. The thing that's bugging me about Barbie is that, and luckily I did come around on this in my own predictions, but one of the things that was pretty prominent when I was talking about Barbie underperforming was the fact that it felt like, and like I said, people can rewrite history all they want, because it doesn't seem that way now, but for a lot of this season, I feel like a lot of people weren't talking up Robbie. And now Robbie is hitting Robbie's hitting everything.
I never wavered from that one, but that was like, again, obviously the beginning was bias. And then I saw the movie and I realized, yeah, it makes sense for her to be here. And I just never wavered when it came to Margot being in here. Don't forget, obviously, I loved I, Tonya too, which we had that conversation that season. We don't want to go back there again.
I was talking about being bullheaded because I couldn't bring myself to get rid of Julianne Moore. It's
That's
like I didn't put as much emphasis on that as I should have, that I'm doing the same thing to Greta Lee.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason I was predicting Greta Lee this past time is because I just fucking refused to let her go.
Fair.
When the Sandra Hüller double seems much more likely.
Especially now. We'll get there.
But yeah, like I said though, there's the thing there where a lot of these bigger awards indicate a lot of things, and that's what we've been talking about the whole season, was waiting for these. But there's still always cases of these making us overpredict something that ends up not doing something. So it's just it's what we say every time. At the end of the day, it's a fucking guessing game. That's all it really is. We can have all these conversations for hours and hours and hours.
We do.
But when Tuesday comes, we're still going to go, oh, didn't see that coming. Or, oh, I didn't think they'd go that route, but I guess they did.
I should have known. That was the wrong prediction. Good job, AJ. Good job, Ashley.
And like I said, there's plenty of times where nominations come out and it's not, you can't do a math problem. It's like it doesn't add up that this is here and this is not here, but that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always an Amy Adams in Arrival snub where it's like, what the fuck? So
it's funny to say that, because no matter what we've done, no matter what we've predicted, at any rate, it seems, at least on paper right now, seems to be that there's nothing drastic on the horizon, as far as I can see right now, that we're not going to at least have either A, predicted, whether we went with it or not, B, had it at one point in the season, or C, just completely just negated it being an idea because we just thought it would never happen. Most everything that's going to happen Tuesday, we probably figured out at one point whether we forgot about it or didn't predict it at all. There's not many surprises we could possibly see. There's going to be many, many snubs, and we know that. We're a lot more invested in this than a lot of people are, and we know exactly what's going to come out of it. So you're watching the reaction video to see all the hullabaloo. It may not be as entertaining because, to be quite honest, I mean, there's not much to be like, oh yeah, there's not going to be like this big, like, outlandish reaction.
So what we're really trying to say is the sad fact of all this is that we talk about this stuff and we analyze this stuff for hours. There's people whose literal job it is to do this.
Yes.
And it's honestly one of my favorite things to do. Like, I love this season. I love talking about, like, oh, people might get this or this because of this, or they might not do the whole analysis thing. At the end of the day, we're all wasting our time. There's no reason to have these long of discussions about this because the nominations are gonna be what they are. And we're still gonna say, oh, damn, I didn't see that.
Should have went with that. I started out the season with that.
So we're all wasting our time together, but I hope if you're having fun, it's not a total waste of time. So there you go.
In the chat, Bry's original score predictions: Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, Spider-Man, and Zone of Interest. If that's the case, then that means 3 of the 5 are British. What the hell? And then for original song, Fire Inside, I'm Just Ken, Never Went Away, Road to Freedom, and What Was I Made For?
I think that was my lineup too, actually.
I'm a little surprised how many people are sticking with Lenny Kravitz. I mean, yeah, should he get nominated Tuesday, it'll be like, oh yeah, of course. But it's like, I don't know, for some reason, it's like, I just feel like there's gotta be one curveball, and he would be the one to get thrown out of the mix. But
no, AJ, the curveball's American Symphony, and we're the ones predicting it when most people don't even know what it is.
I don't know. John Batiste singing about his wife's illness. I don't know. That seems pretty who wouldn't say that?
I'm very excited to be able to see Soul in the theater on Tuesday after we make the predictions.
Sal.
Yes.
I don't want that to sound as inhumane as it did, but it's.
But it.
I mean, because we're not talking about a fictional movie now, so.
But we are talking about the next category.
Bry's makeup and hair ones are Golda, Killers, Maestro, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. Josie also asks, what other filmmakers would you like to see Jerskin Fendrix compose for? I can't say current version of him, but imagine if he wasn't obsessed so much with Danny Elfman and you had Jerskin do like old Tim Burton stuff, like Edward Scissorhands.
I always give such boring answers to this. My answer to this is just he's so specific to Lanthimos. I don't know that I can imagine it. That's just you hear the music and you're just like, that's out of a Lanthimos movie. Like I can't even imagine.
Wes Anderson would be interesting.
I mean he has scored for other people, right?
Nope.
No.
Are we positive on that?
Most of his stuff. He did a score for a play at the V&A like 5 years ago.
Oh my god, he's so fucking young.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have predicted that.
Good lord.
Yeah, this is his first sort of arguably first step into mainstream, really. Because even Winter Riser, his album from 2020, didn't get nominated for not Grammy. Well, I guess the equivalent of the Grammys or the Mercury Music Prize for that year. So if it means that he just gets into film work. I mean, it hasn't done too bad for Michael Levi, although it took 10 years between Under the Skin and Zone of Interest. But
I would say Verbinski, because if that's the case, based upon what his sound is like, it would basically be like Verbinski's Rango. So just another version of that, basically, but a lot more weird and twisted. Maybe Terry Gilliam back in the day.
Josie once again mentioning don't discount Song for My People getting in at song, especially if they want to show honor to Indigenous people.
I wouldn't be against that, Josie, honestly, but I feel like this song it depends on how they go in on Killers. We'll talk about Gladstone in a minute, but oh man, I'm still confused about that.
And then Josie says, what other directors would you like to see Greta Lee work with? Anybody, really. I think she can do a good performance from whatever she's given.
I'm going to go with John Carney.
Yeah.
I was gonna say somebody, but they're off the table now, and I don't want to start a riot by even mentioning their name, so I just won't. If you do the math, maybe you'll figure it out.
Sergio Leone, there we go.
I definitely think I know where you're going with this, but I'm not exactly sure.
I'll narrow it down. I'm not talking about Polanski.
Nope.
Okay. then now
Orson
you know.
Welles, there we go.
Somebody we saw in Athens a few times, maybe or maybe not. You never know.
Yeah, a few times.
Yep, and we are on the same page. Robert Eggers is what Josie says, and Sean. We don't speak of that. Oh, actually, no, wrong one. Yeah, Sean Durkin would be interesting. Justice for the
to editing.
Oh, Lord.
Where we have Anatomy of a Fall, Killers of the Flower Moon, because Thelma Schoonmaker, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and Zone of Interest.
Holdovers missed editing here, but I don't think that necessarily means much.
I'm not even worried about that.
It wouldn't. It's not even on the
I
list.
feel it's so weird to me how confident I am that the holdovers is going to make it in editing.
I hate that because I should have been that way too. Because it just frustrates me to no end. Because I look at this lineup here because I'm looking at the long list because Ashley's gone, and
So,
there's really no.
yeah, I have the holdovers in place of the zone of interest, and I have Barbie in place of Anatomy of a Fall. Like I said, I feel kind of confident in Barbie also because Barbie has a lot of like montages and stuff.
Yeah.
And if they just really love it, they could still go for it. But Anatomy of a Fall would make a really interesting addition here, Oscar-wise, if that happens. That would really be. That could really help show that Anatomy of a Fall really has a place when the Oscar nominations get here.
I feel that it's a lot higher than people are predicting. But then again, the ones that are predicting it are the ones that know it belongs here. Anybody that tries to do this like off the top of their head, like the GP trying to do these videos, may or may not have seen the movie. So they don't know how much it truly belongs here.
Which one are you talking about?
Anatomy of a Fall. Maestro missing here too. So, but that's again not necessarily a surprise.
Then to costume design, where we have Barbie's Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things.
Stop this Napoleon thing, please.
I think this was the only place I actually put it in my own predictions.
Do I have it anywhere? Maybe.
I think. Hang on.
You did.
I snubbed Killers to put Napoleon in, and which is interesting because they're both here. What was that?
You also went with the color purple here too.
Yeah.
To be fair, that is the last time we're mentioning Napoleon in this list. It doesn't show up anywhere else.
I don't feel bad about putting the color purple when I was trying to remember what else I snubbed.
I have your lineup in front of me.
Yeah, I have my lineup in front of me, but for some reason I can't do the fucking math. Like, what's missing? Is it just that I have the color purple in place of Killers? Is that all? Is all the only difference?
You don't have Maestro in here.
No, they don't either.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess that is the only difference. I took Killers out and I put the color purple in because Napoleon. I think my math was getting fucked up because I kept thinking I was thinking as if I put Napoleon in when they didn't, but they did. So yeah,
right.
I'm just fucked up.
Ashley, get to chat before we go further. Brian's editing.
Bri for editing has Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie's Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer. And for costume design has Barbie color purple, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. Joe says I'd like to see a spy movie with Sandra Hüller. I'm telling you all not to count. I'm telling you all not to count out Oppenheimer in costumes. And then saying, I wish Iron Claw was in costumes. The costumes were great.
I wish Iron Claw was in anything, Josie.
Is there? We were cautioned to not underestimate Oppenheimer in costumes. Does anybody not have Oppenheimer in costumes?
Hang on.
Not that I can see.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. Ashley doesn't.
Oh, right.
Mm.
Well, shoot.
Ashley went with Saltburn. And Maestro's costumes are done by Oscar-winning costume designer Mark Bridges, so I wouldn't count that out, says Josie.
I think that's why I put it in.
I didn't know who that person was. Sure, let's go.
It's the guy from Phantom Thread that got the jet ski.
Oh yeah.
That's how I
Okay,
always
right on.
remember him.
All right, we are to the important stuff now.
Yeah, because editing
Well,
isn't important.
ask the televised awards apparently.
For cinematography, we have Rodrigo Prieto for Killers of the Flower Moon, Matthew Libatique for Maestro, Hoyte van Hoytema for Oppenheimer, Robbie Ryan for Poor Things, and Lucas Zhao for Zone of Interest.
Okay, so obviously he's not nominated. He is nominated here, but he's not nominated for this. But I still feel like it's relevant. I've been having an Inarritu marathon this week.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot how fucking amazing Amoris Perros is. And as I was watching it, all I could think was, it's so fucking weird. The guy that shot this shot Barbie. And I couldn't get it out of my head. It's like this. Amoris Perros is so grimy and like Barbie. That's wild. But yes, as well as Killers of the Flower Moon, because he's kind of on fire this season.
I mean, to some extent as well, I would argue Wolf of Wall Street sort of is the one that stands out as being different to everything else as well. Because there's a lot of sort of brash colour that Barbie has in Wolf of Wall Street. Whereas, like, you know, Babel and Lust Caution and Alexander and Brokeback and Irishman and Silence, not so much.
I'm trying to remember what made me go with Society of the Snow here. I mean, international movies have a way of breaking into this category, but when we've got an international movie right here with the Zone of Interest waving its hands around, I don't know. I'm trying. When I was talking about the Zone of, maybe we're over predicting the Zone of Interest. Maybe that was me wishful thinking because I did kind of under predict it. So I don't know. It still seems. It seems too obvious. The Zone of Interest was supposed to be the out of nowhere movie, and it's everywhere.
Well, because Ashley's the only one of us that actually predicted it.
I will never not be confused by this.
Ashley,
So what?
you have
So-
Society, and I have El Conde. We all have a
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
movie the other one doesn't have. The main movie the other one doesn't have. No, everybody picked the same four. We'll just have a different fifth one.
Also, you know, Lucas Zhao does like using black and white in his stuff. You know, I'm pretty sure there was a little touch of it in Loving Vincent, but with Ida and Cold War in here.
I think Poor Things, Oppenheimer, and Maestro all have a lot of black and white. And I want to say the beginning montage of Killers probably does too.
Yeah, it does.
That's interesting how much black and white is involved, just in this year in general.
Then for best film not in the English language,
Who's in top?
we have 20 Days in Mariupol, Anatomy of a Fall, Past Lives, Society of the Snow, and The Zone of Interest. So
The
yes.
fact that they literally spell it out not in the English language. The fact that Anatomy of a Fall here is hilarious.
The Juliette Binoche film didn't make it in. Yes.
So they could have went with The Boy and the Heron here too, and they didn't.
Yeah. I mean, keep in mind though, this is the only nomination for Past Lives. Oh no, sorry, take it back.
There's a big one coming
Yeah.
up in a little bit. A really big one, actually.
Oh yeah, there's a couple. Yeah.
Sadly, we probably won't go any further than that, but.
But yeah, it's fascinating that an American film that isn't considered for foreign stuff on America makes it in here, and the British film, which isn't in the English language, is also in here. It's confusing. And of course, the obligatory documentary as well, as it seems to be over recent years. Speaking of, for documentary, we have 20 Days of Mario Pole, joined by American Symphony, Beyond Utopia, still a Michael J. Fox movie, which I didn't think was going to make it in here, but there you go. And Wham! The Wham movie. I didn't know we needed it, but...
Yes, of course we do.
Well, it's only because, like, there's already been, like, a George Michael one from a few years back that didn't get the same sort of attention that the Wham one did. Hell, they put it in cinemas. That's, like, kind of crazy as well.
You give credit to Andrew Ridgeley here. He needs his movie too.
Yeah. If anything, that's why it exists, I feel.
That's probably right, actually. And I'm okay with that.
Hey, technically, he now has a Christmas #1.
Just as long as you don't get Whamageddon, you're good to go.
Yeah. Then, as usual, we only have 4 for animated, and they literally did everything that I didn't predict for the Oscars. They went with Aardman and Disney. So alongside Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget, and Elemental, we've got Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and The Boy and the Heron.
I didn't think Turtles would get in at BAFTA. And I didn't think Wish would get in at BAFTA. And I was proven correct. But I shouldn't have discounted Chicken Run here, especially given what it is. But I don't think it's going to go any further than this. I guess we'll have to see soon enough.
As far as Oscars go, there's just kind of a spot. One might say 2 spots just kind of sitting there in the Oscars animated category.
And I say it every time, if there is something that is not CGI animated, or not animated in the traditional CGI sense, they always like going for it. So Chicken Run would fit that deal right there.
I think it's funny that we're all predicting Nimona at the Oscars, and that's going to be the one when it gets announced Tuesday. They're like, "What's that?" It's like, "Oh yeah, Nimona's in here. Of course it is. Let's go."
Yeah,
good.
I mean, Elemental has been consistent, but Spider-Man and The Boy and the Heron are the only ones that really feel like they're here.
I agree.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the other 3 were totally different.
It could be. It's possible.
Yeah, it depends whether people do want to get behind Mario movie. Then, giving it praise for its art, really, rather than the actual story it presents. Which would probably take a dump, to some extent, on Del Toro's speech from 12 months ago.
Yeah.
They're not for children, they're for everyone. Some parents were bored out of their mind by the Mario film.
I know. I sat there and watched them. It was entertaining. They're the ones that kept getting up during the movie, not their kids.
They're the ones that thought a Mario movie was going to have, a script.
Do you need popcorn? Do you need drinks? I'll get up and get them for you right now. It's okay. I'll be back in about 5 minutes.
I don't know why this is so funny to me, but I saw one criticism of the Mario movie. And I don't know if it just hit me at the right time or what, but I thought it was hilarious. It was a criticism about the soundtrack and just using random popular songs like animated movies tend to do.
Yep.
And they were talking about using, it's the Beastie Boys that do No Sleep Till Brooklyn.
Yes.
There's a whole Brooklyn scene where
Mhm.
they do like a little action scene to it. And somebody's criticism of that was they're already in Brooklyn.
Gee.
It's like, yeah, that's kind of the perfect way to criticize the soundtrack. It's just
John
that
Ortega,
simple.
Sesame Street line comes to mind right now.
Hmm.
So then to the big eight.
Oh, here we go.
Oh wait, we missed one.
Casting.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's so
we missed the
important.
one that everybody wants to be at the Oscars and doesn't, and I only blank it. So yeah, casting was All of Us, Strangers, Anatomy of a Fall, Holdovers, How to Have Sex, and Killers of the Flower Moon.
Oppenheimer not being here is strange.
Well, it's really it's when you look at it as a category, it can be hard to differentiate cast and casting.
Hmm.
Because a lot of people probably see casting and they think it's an ensemble category,
Okay.
which, to my understanding, is not quite. You know what I really need to do that I've never done, that's been recommended to me so many times, is to watch that documentary about casting directors. Because I hear it makes it pretty clear what that job is and how important that job is and what all the details of it are. So that might help if that was a more well-known thing.
Yeah, but I mean, I always think back to like the first or second time when they had the category and Rocks won because it
Yeah.
was getting the right casting for the kids that basically just play themselves in the film.
You want to talk about that? The movie to beat here is Killers for sure. Judging by that scenario,
You mean specifically like the casting of the Osage people?
absolutely.
Yeah.
But in that, don't rule out How to Have Sex. It's got a relatively
I
small.
think
It's got a relatively
That
small cast as well.
that
it's
was
the
actually what my
outlier.
mind went to first.
It's the outlier, I think. But when it comes to BAFTA, I feel like it makes it a top contender.
There's a chance, of course, that Holdovers makes it in because the discovery of Cessa.
That's
Yeah.
very quality as well.
That's the thing. It's these casting directors that are like, that's person. We need that person. They're one to watch, sort of thing.
Speaking of that same category, when it comes down to it, don't forget about Milo. Anatomy of a Fall is in this.
Mm-hmm.
There's another blurry line is like as far as what exactly a casting director's job is when you look at something like Oppenheimer and how a lot of those people were like handpicked. A lot of those people were probably handpicked by Nolan before he started writing.
Certainly.
And so it's the idea of the rest of everybody, like the people that threw in, Josh Peck or the guy that plays Chevalier or whatever. I don't know for sure what exactly where the line is drawn between whose job is what, but or if the casting director still has a job once Nolan wants somebody. That's the kind of thing where it's like I need to watch that documentary and really learn about that.
Even though it got ballabanned, basically it's got slapped and then they took care of it and then slapped again. I think All of Us Strangers being in here is really good for its visibility as well. Very deserved too. That cast is fantastic.
Yeah, it's one of those cases also about those. Sometimes it doesn't add up as a math problem when you look at, because when you look at it, All of Us Strangers did extremely well. The thing that's really bizarre is the Andrew Scott omission. It just doesn't add up.
And even Jamie Bell was in the long list. He didn't make it, but he was there.
In the chat, Josie says, which of the Oppenheimer suits would you want to wear yourself? Probably the Macintosh one. I feel like if I was in a massive sort of storm or blustery weather, the Mac would stop everything.
You know what's really stood out to me about the way he looks in general? And it's one of those things where as soon as you hear it, it makes total sense. You can actually see like interviewers when Cillian Murphy mentions this have like epiphanies like, oh shit, I can't believe I never noticed that. How some shots of the way Oppenheimer looks are inspired by pictures of Bowie.
Oh yeah, you could definitely see it.
It's like once you know that, it's like, oh my god, of course, I can see that vividly.
Can we get Killian as Bowie then, please?
I think that's still Tilda Swinton's job at some point.
You're not wrong. And that Conan O'Brien movie's probably never going to get made, so.
If we ever get like a Bowie version of I'm Not There,
Oh,
yeah, we definitely need Tilda to be Aladdin Zane Bowie.
I would like that greatly.
Dude, with all the different personas he had, how does that movie not exist?
Somebody make it now.
Write it now.
Brian has cinematography same as the BAFTAs for international feature Fallen Leaves, Monk and the Gun, Bhutan, Society of the Snow, 20 Days in Mariupol and Zone of Interest, documentary feature American Symphony, Beyond Utopia, Four Daughters, Going to Mars, The Nikki Giovanni Project and 20 Days in Mariupol, and for animated feature Boy and the Heron Elemental, Ernest and Celestine, A Trip to Gibberitia, Nimona and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Ooh. I won't... You ask us, you know, on the subject of Society of the Snow, favourite nature survival movie. I feel we answered that, like, last time, Josie.
Mm-hmm.
So I won't touch on that one, but... favourite plane crash scene in a film, I guess, because of Society of the Snow. You know, Owen might reject this to some extent because his feelings towards the film slightly, but that crash in 1917 where it goes out of view and you think, oh, it's done, and then all of a sudden it shows up again.
Maybe War of the Worlds. Given the fact that I've actually seen that plane crash up close and personal at Universal a couple of times lately, and I was actually literally right next to it when I was getting ready to go to Jupiter's Claim, yeah, I definitely want to say War of the Worlds. The aftermath, for sure. Knowing is on that list, too. And maybe Flight.
No, I was about to bring up Flight. I have beef with Flights because they had to throw up somebody fucking puking in it, but
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, the one in Knowing is really underrated. Like I said, I think once again there is one drawback, which is they do that amazing scene where they make it look like it's all in one shot, and then him running through the wreckage, and then it's ruined by that one moment everybody laughs at, where that guy, completely engulfed in flames, runs by Cage, and Cage turns around and screams "Hey" at him. Like,
meme culture before it was cool.
And it's like, and to be honest, I don't even know that I noticed that until it was pointed out to me, because the scene itself is so incredibly done. Like I said, the way it looks like one shot where we see it crash and then he runs through the wreckage is astonishing. So, yeah. If it just didn't have such a Cage moment in it, I guess.
Yeah.
And Josie says, I wonder if Elemental does the route of Finding Dory.
What was Finding Dory's route?
It didn't get nominated, but it won the Emmy. It won the Annie.
The Annies don't really mean much.
No, they do not.
The only reason it kind of swayed me on Nimona was the fact that Nimona did, like, it felt like it came from out of nowhere and like did really well as far as like nominations wise, to where you couldn't help but notice. Yeah, I don't remember Finding Dory being much in the conversation at all, as far as I remember. But
It may
I
not
don't.
be. I'm not sure about the context. I want to make sure, Josie, please elaborate in chat if we're off the beaten path on this. But I feel it's talking about how it didn't perform at all when it comes to the award shows. It might be just the type of movie that it is, or maybe that Elemental will get its audience down the line, like Finding Dory did, but it didn't automatically like pick up its fan base.
Yeah,
Because it took Elemental a little bit to finally get an audience.
looking at it, it made it in the Critics' Choice Awards, and the Annie Awards, and by the looks of it, BAFTA. But it didn't make it in the Globes. It didn't make it in really many other. Well, I don't know if it made it in the Visual Effects Society and oh yeah, PGA as well. But it didn't. It didn't make Academy.
Well, it does. It feels like PGA is kind of lazy when it comes to animated. A lot of shit ends up in PGA's animated lineup.
We'll talk about PGA tomorrow.
And again, you know, the fact that Dory was going up against both Zootopia slash Zootropolis and Kubo and Moana. It's probably why it missed.
I remember it kind of being an afterthought after it came out.
Fine for what it was. It just kind of got lost.
I actually like the movie. A lot of people think Ed O'Neill's Octopus Driving a Truck was jumping the shark kind of thing, but which is funny to say about a movie about the sea. But
that was fine. I liked it. Ryan says if Disney misses in general an animated feature on Tuesday, will be the third time ever. 2005 for Chicken Little, 2011 for Cars 2, and no one saw Winnie the Pooh. I did. AJ did. Theatrically too.
I can't tell if it makes it easier or harder to forget that it's only an hour long. So there's only
some movies are an hour too long.
So now we get to the screenplays.
Okay, I gotta find them. There they are.
So in adapted, we have All of Us Strangers, American Fiction. Editor's note: the only nomination it gets this entire thing. The hell
deserves. I don't know why it's the only
Oppenheimer,
one.
Poor Things, and Zone of Interest.
So, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. It seems like it's on the cusp at this point, but it hasn't got enough to push itself into the conversation unless it's a big surprise on Tuesday.
Especially when you have to take into account that Barbie is probably going in here in terms of the Oscar stuff. So.
Yep. I support the fact that money is in this long list.
There's very, very few contenders in adapted, but the thing is what very few contenders there are pretty big obstacles for the other ones.
Yeah.
It's like you could say, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret is close, but to try to jump Killers and All of Us Strangers are two pretty big hurdles for a movie like that to get here. Not that it's impossible.
No.
Just that what few competition there is are really fighting each other.
Like I said, I am happy that Dumb Money was at least in the long list.
That's unexpected.
Deserved, but unexpected.
Yeah, Craig Gillespie, it's actually tolerable. It was wild.
Yeah,
actually
that's adapted. I guess at the end of the day, they just did not care about Blackberry.
Yeah.
Even at BAFTA. Even a long list. Come on.
Hopefully very soon. I was telling Owen, I hope at the beginning of February at least we'll be able to do our if we did the nominees and winners, and then we can Blackberry can get some love.
Heck yeah. Same with Sanctuary. I will say right now that I need to see Maestro, and I'd like to see May December beforehand. It's not a prerequisite, but I am seeing the Zone of Interest guaranteed on Friday. So Maestro is the only thing hanging over my head right now. So once I get that out of the way, I feel like I can make my if we pick the Oscars.
Yeah, I think the only thing hanging over me right now, in order to do if we pick the winners and nominees, is the Zone of Interest and All of Us Strangers. After those two, I might be done.
I should really consider about what I think about that, because that's funny, because that'd be a great double feature for you.
Because I have seen American Fiction and The Color Purple, and we were going to talk about that a little more tomorrow.
Yes.
And maybe a couple of other things.
Right now, actually.
And if there's time, maybe a couple of other things just that aren't like nominated for anything. Well, one was longlisted and one was nominated at the Globes for both for song, so they don't matter. But I feel like they need talked about, so we might do that for shits and giggles tomorrow.
We may or may not talk. We may or may not talk about the aforementioned Olivia Rodrigo song. I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Let's go to original screenplay.
Yeah, which is Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, Holdovers, Maestro, and Past Lives.
Air could have been here. I really wish it was. Saltburn could have been here.
I'm kind of surprised it wasn't.
Honestly, speaking of the way it performed otherwise, I'm very surprised How to Have Sex isn't in here.
Well, if Barbie wasn't taking up space in the wrong category.
Accurate. More love for Rye Lane, too. So it's just like, it's strange that it was longlisted, but it didn't go any further. And still no May December. I don't feel comfortable right now.
I mean, I don't want to seem like I'm backing what I put in my predictions, but I mean, just kind of looking, even though, like we said, like Andrew Scott, it's not like you can do this as a math problem. But I would be, if somebody said they thought Saltburn would have been fifth if Barbie wasn't here, that would make sense.
Yeah.
If you look at everything else.
I agree.
So, yeah.
We'll talk about those categories in a few minutes. Want to hit chat first, Ashley, before we get into the categories?
Bry says, if Disney misses in general for animated, it'll be only the third time ever. First in as an 05. Oh, you already mentioned that because of.
Yep, I did.
I wasn't sure.
It's okay.
Bry says for adapted, All of Us Strangers, American Fiction, Barbie, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. Who's been predicting Barbie and adapted all day since August? Say aye. And then Bry says aye.
I took it out one fucking time.
Same.
Yeah.
One.
I was just going by what, I go by what the studios say. Until I am told otherwise. My mum had Barbie on the TV and she said she found the writing lazy and tacky. At best, 8th or 9th grade school writing.
I was just sitting here looking at the acting nominees and realizing how secure many of these are, or how many of them feel. And I'm trying to imagine coming into this season totally blind, having no idea what these movies are. I haven't heard anything at all whatsoever.
Okay.
And seeing that not only is there a Barbie movie, but Barbie and Ken both are nominated, I would wonder, what the fuck is this movie?
That's fair.
Especially when all the other Barbie films have just been animated things over the past 20 years.
You're correct.
I guess I wouldn't feel too dissimilar to the way I did before the movie came out. The way a lot of us felt before the movie came out. Well, it's like, is this going to be some groundbreaking thing? But how? It's like, well, I mean, I watched the movie and I still... Robbie makes sense, if nothing more than for the scene where she's first out in the real world and she's like mimicking people's emotions. It's I love Gosling in the movie, sure. Having a full awards run is still kind of weird to me. I mean, he's good, but I don't know that I like him in that way. I feel like I'm talking about a potential lover or something.
To some extent,
I love him, but not like that.
to some extent, I'm also intrigued by what it would have been had it been involving Amy Schumer and Jennifer Lawrence, as was originally, devised, like 4 or 5 years ago.
I'm assuming it wasn't the existential thing that this one is. I'm assuming it was something totally different.
I'm sure it would have been.
And then Bry for original has Anatomy of a Fall, Holdovers, Maestro, May December, and Past Lives.
Okay.
So, to the acting sixes. For supporting actress, we have Emily Blunt for Oppenheimer, Danielle Brooks for Color Purple, Claire Foy for All of Us Strangers, Sandra Huller for Zone of Interest, Rosamund Pike for Saltburn, and Divine Joy Randolph for Holdovers.
No, you Jodie Foster, you are not in this lineup.
Stop
it. Stop trying to make it happen. It's just like Fett. It's not gonna happen.
We're gonna talk about The Color Purple tomorrow.
Heck yeah, we are.
But this is kind of a segue for one thing that's just kind of waiting to burst out of me.
I know where you're going with this. We've had this conversation last night.
Because after having watched The Color Purple, I am so confused about something. So, obviously, we know who I would personally pick of these people.
Obviously.
So, taking out of the equation what I think and what I feel, I want to look at Randolph and Brooks. Because Randolph is the one that will not lose. For some reason, this is one of those performances where it seems like everybody made up their mind very early. Everybody got together and was like, this is the one we're all getting behind. Agreed. Yep. And all the awards bodies say yes, yes. I'm not suggesting like an awards Illuminati or something, but that's what I'm saying. It's what it feels like. Where there's that one performance where it's like, really? Everybody thought this was the top one? Out of the choices? And so it was like, for the longest time, I was like, what? Pre The Color Purple, I was like, okay, fine, whatever. It's one of those performances. I don't even know that Randolph makes my top 5 in supporting actress.
Nope.
As good as she is. I see Brooks in The Color Purple. And the first thing I think is this going to be another Ariana DeBose thing? Where it's like, when I saw West Side Story, it's like, Ariana DeBose is great, but I feel like she's hitting every note that Rita Moreno hit. It didn't feel like a new performance at all.
Right.
It just felt like Ariana DeBose very, very well doing Rita Moreno's performance. So I kind of just assumed that Brooks was going to be, it's going to be Oprah's performance, just with music. And what Danielle Brooks does here, like I said, Blunt's still my personal choice, but if we're choosing between the two of a performance that would have completely wiped out this category all season, it's baffling to me that it's Randolph and not Brooks.
Same.
If you were going to pick one where it's like, this is the supporting actress performance we're all going to say, it would have made a lot more sense if that was Brooks than Randolph. And I'm not saying you have to be big, because obviously Brooks is a very big performance, and Randolph's really isn't. Like, it almost seemed like it was a point by Payne to cut Randolph's performance off when it was about to go big. Like that scene in the kitchen, where you think she's going to have a really big moment, and the scene just ends.
She doesn't.
And it's like, her performance, through the editing, really, and those decisions, and the writing decisions, Randolph's performance is downplayed. But the fact that Brooks was able to go beyond just what Oprah did, and to go to that thing where I was talking about how it annoys me when singers get movie awards for singing. But it's like when you watch this goes out to Fantasia too.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at Brooks and Fantasia and basically everybody in The Color Purple, it doesn't feel like they're acting. Then when the musical numbers hit, they sing, and then they go back to acting or whatever. And obviously the singing is more of a standout because they're singers to begin with.
Sure.
The Color Purple didn't feel like that to me.
Nope.
I felt like everybody was acting their fucking asses off, whether they were singing or not.
Oh yeah.
And so Fantasia I can kind of get just because actors has been so crowded. Why Fantasia has been struggling to show up, except in one particular instance we're about to talk about. But yeah, so Randolph sweeping everything was all right, I guess this to me. But now after seeing Brooks, I don't get it anymore. I don't get why Randolph is sweeping like this anymore. So, like I said, maybe I just need to see the holdovers again, which I plan on doing soon. The Blu-ray's way too expensive right now, but I'm probably just gonna bite the bullet and do it anyway because I got paid recently. So, just to get that viewing in, that next viewing in. But I don't know. I don't get how these sweeps happen, honestly.
Like when talking about Air earlier in the season, like right when everything first started and the hype for Viola Davis, and she just kind of just gone. Air doesn't really matter in the long run, and I would have nominated her over most of these people, to be quite honest with you. And I like most of these performances. If you look at the supporting actress lineup, even the long list, there is not one on this list that one of us has not predicted at one way, shape, or form. There is no surprises here at all. If you look at the 5 that made it, in this case, the 6th person that made it, all of these were on our list at one point. So it's not surprising in the long run. But one thing I am happy about is that Claire Foy's in here. I'm very happy she's in here. I am also happy that Cara Jade Myers and America Ferrara both made the long list. Especially Myers, because she's not getting nearly enough love at all.
I'll be interested.
Her getting in and not Gladstone is crazy to me.
I'll be interested to see Foy's performance because Foy has some good performances like Unseen and Women Talking.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't been blown away by Foy yet in anything.
Sure.
So I'll be curious when I feel like she's one of those people where it's like I feel like the time will come.
Mm-hmm.
Well, just for me personally, that hasn't happened with her yet. So I'll be curious to see this particular performance as well.
I'm not sure if this will do it for you, but I definitely you'll see a little bit more about what other people have been saying about whether you feel that way or not. Honestly.
Is it big or small or a combination or?
She has her performance, but she also can be really downplayed in areas. But she goes for it, and oh yeah, big time.
I love a performance that can quietly sneak up on you. There's actors that look like they can be barely doing anything, and then they'll just do like one little thing, and you're like, holy shit, and then it like destroys you or something. So I'm open to whenever that time with Claire Foy comes.
Oh no, I'm not saying that out loud. You it's your discretion if you want to, Ashley.
What in the chat?
Yep.
So Bri for supporting actress has Blunt, Brooks, Huller, Pike, and Randolph.
I'd love if Pike gets in this.
I'd hope AJ doesn't cry if Blunt misses, because this category is probably going to be first to announce like it is every year.
I am so pessimistic in my general life that I'm constantly prepared for the worst.
Mm-hmm.
So Well, that's what I was telling Owen though, is we're at a point now to where not only are we this far into her career, but we're this far into this particular season. I don't think my reaction's going to be big either way.
Nope.
Because you would think if she does get in, I'm going to do the Tom Hardy thing or the Bennett Miller thing. But I've seen her get snubbed so many times, and the fact that it's been built up enough that she hasn't missed yet this season.
Mm.
I feel like the thing I'm really gonna feel if she gets in is just relief.
Yep.
Like it'll just be, thank God we finally reached this moment. And like I said, I'm just so pessimistic in life in general that if she misses again, I probably won't even be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's so, yeah, it's not going to be anything big one way or the other. So
You're not watching our reactions to get the big grandiose. Oh my God! You're just basically just getting our actual reactions to everything.
I'm also much older and more tired than I was in 2014 and 2015. So I think even if it's something enormous, I feel like the days of the Bennett Miller, Tom Hardy reactions are behind me.
And Josie's mum with the hottest of hot takes. So much it could be flaming hot. Brought to you by Diane motherfucking Warren.
Exactly.
Josie's mum said the feminist message of Barbie was toxic and sending bad messaging to young girls.
So she sides with the daughter at the beginning of the movie.
Yes.
I don't know. The Barbie discussions are really tricky. I try to just not get involved.
Speaking of tricky, leading actor is up next.
Leading? What? Supporting.
I hate the list. I hate the way that I have it because I took it directly from the website. From the BAFTA website, not Wikipedia this time around. That's why everything's all over the place. Supporting actor.
We have De Niro for Killers, Downey for Oppenheimer, Elordi for Saltburn,
There we
Gosling
go.
for Barbie, Paul Mescal, in here again, for All of Us Strangers, and
Yes.
Dominic Sessa for The Holdovers.
I look at the long list, and the only name that sticks out like a sore thumb is why one of my favorite supporting actor performances of the year. But the thing is, they didn't really go heavy on Poor Things when it came to the acting categories.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Poor Things in this category.
Same here.
So far, I think we've had, in all four situations, we have one or the other get in, or both, and now with BAFTA, neither.
I'm trying to
At this
figure
rate,
out.
we need to have all three make it in with Rami Youssef tomorrow.
I'm trying to figure out why Ruffalo would be falling behind. And the fact that Defoe is like beating him as far as mentions go. Like that's actually another thing in general, but just alone, what is keeping Ruffalo behind?
And then you flip BAFTA, where Ruffalo got on the long list and Defoe's not even on here.
Yeah.
As well.
Because all the praise for Ruffalo has been the kind of thing that typically gets you nominated, which is he's playing completely against his image.
Yeah.
So and in a movie that's otherwise this big of a contender, and he's got a very crucial part in too. Like he's practically a co-lead for like 2/3 of the movie.
Agreed.
So it's kind of just confusing that Ruffalo has fallen this far behind. But there's also the case of like my mind was kind of jumping around to comparing him and Defoe to Aaron Taylor Johnson and Michael Shannon when they were both up for Nocturnal Animals. Where it was like Aaron Taylor Johnson was getting all the mentions, and then Shannon got the Oscar nomination kind of out of nowhere. Did Shannon have anything? I think Aaron Taylor Johnson won the Globe, and he was nominated at BAFTA, I think. And then Shannon came in to get the Oscar nomination with nothing.
I
think is what happened.
Anything, no.
So that would be like Aaron Taylor Johnson's BAFTA nomination could be comparable to Defoe's SAG nomination, with Ruffalo being the Shannon of the two, if you want to make this comparison.
Sure.
And the fact that they were both at Globe throws this all into a rut. Because I feel like Shannon didn't have anything for Nocturnal Animals until the Oscar nomination, but I might be forgetting something. I don't.
And it's been long enough. Can we get another Tom Ford movie, please?
That'd be fantastic.
On
two movies alone, he's like a director I'm always looking out for, just based on 2 movies. He's my Malick.
That's a good way to put it.
He might not be. It might be too much to say he's my Kubrick. I'll say he's my Malick.
I see some like critics awards that Shannon was nominated for.
But as far as like this big stuff,
doesn't appear that way.
I say depending on what you want to call big stuff is debatable, but
I guess the closest one would be like National Society of Film Critics, something like that.
They both miss SAG though, right? I'm pretty sure.
That's the only thing that Nocturnal Animals got was stunt ensemble at SAG.
So
not even SAG.
I guess based on the history of Nocturnal Animals, if Ruffalo still made it and Defoe didn't, I wouldn't be that surprised.
Okay. Here's a surprise one. The only thing that Shannon got beforehand was a Critics' Choice nomination.
Interesting.
Based on all we bag on that all season. That was
the
Oscars.
So was Johnson also at Critics' Choice or not at all? It was just Shannon.
No. It was Shannon, Ford, and Seamus McGarvey for cinematography. Thank you, Wikipedia.
That is interesting.
Oh, we have chat. We have chat now.
Oh yeah, fair bit. Supporting actor for Bry is Sterling K. Brown, De Niro, Downey Jr., Gosling, and Sessa. So also no recognition of Poor Things in that list. Another young actor I'd love to see nominated is Milo for Anatomy.
Yes, please.
What football Duncan Wedderburn would follow? I mean, what football team?
I don't know. I don't know any football clubs.
I was gonna say that's strictly an Ashley question, I think.
Manchester United, maybe. I don't know.
Well,
NEFTA.
No. No, he wouldn't be that trendy. He feels like an old school Man U fan, which is the argument of jumping on the bandwagon because they're the popular team.
I was right. I was just guessing.
Well, obvious considering for the past 3 seasons it's been Man City, it'd probably be them at least in nowadays. But right. I feel it would be whoever was like the team that was winning, he would select.
Mm.
So if by chance, let's say, you know, the US soccer team like won the World Cup, he'd be like, yes, I support America. And then if Argentina win it again, it'd be like, yes, I support Argentina. He'd just be glory hunting. He wouldn't
He sounds like
actually give a crap about
I
the
agree.
actual entity of it. And then, oh right, Josie says when I saw it for a second time, my friend and I joked that he might root for the Packers. So I guess we're talking NFL style.
I have plausible deniability, Josie.
I think
He likes the Cowboys.
At least
sure.
in the Tom Brady era, he would have just been Patriots because, again, glory hunting. And then in a left turn to all degrees, we also said that Christopher Abbott in Poor Things would be a member of the NRA.
Yeah, we did. Forgot about that.
He was very quick. He was in the movie for like 2 minutes before he had his gun out. And then
Accurate statement.
Bry noting, as you said, Owen, that Shannon got Angry Critics' Choice.
Nope.
Parsnip said, sorry I'm late. How did you all do with the BAFTAs? Did AJ yell?
This was just a reaction. This was just a reaction to the nominations. We haven't done our predictions yet.
Yeah. Does anyone know why Trial of the Chicago 7 doesn't have a physical media release? Yeah. Blame Netflix.
yeah. Fucking Netflix.
You have to rely on Criterion to suddenly go, oh yeah, we should probably put that in our collection. That's your only hope.
I mean, we're slowly getting more and more movies are coming out of Netflix prison and getting on Criterion, but I don't know that Chicago 7 doesn't strike me as a Criterion movie though. I don't know.
You get those rare occurrences, you know, when the studio is co-producing with Netflix. So you've obviously got all the Paramount ones like Cloverfield. What the hell was it called? Cloverfield Protocol?
Paradox,
that was it. And then Annihilation, which was like, oh my god. And then even the Mitchells versus the Machines, like, got a physical release at least over here. I was like,
what I really need to happen is Barbarian, Zach Kreger's Barbarian. For some reason, it had a theatrical release and everything,
Yep,
and then it was on HBO Max, which I think is where it still lives. Its Blu-ray is fucking impossible to get a hold of. I've been trying for like over a year. So what I really think needs to happen is Arrow needs to pick up Barbarian, because it needs some kind of like actual. The only thing I think I can find is fucking imports, and even those are like, they seem scarce. So I don't know what the hell is going on with Barbarian's physical release, since we're on the topic.
Hold on. So since you're doing that, I went ahead and did some research for you, sir. I found it on Blu-ray for $15.20.
Already.
Yeah.
Where did you go?
I typed in Barbarian Blu-ray into Google. I see what you're talking about. There's a region ABC that's like $27.
Yeah, I have been struggling to find a physical copy of it since it came out.
Yeah, I have it right here. I just wanted to look to see if I can find it right away. eBay is your friend.
eBay, I don't know how much I trust, because sometimes people just burn shit and then send it out. And I want to avoid that.
That is fair. There's a website called eCrater that they have too.
Yes, I would honestly just love for like Arrow to release it in like this really nice edition, and that's because I could actually see that happening.
That's Macari.
And it would feel the most legit than whatever the fuck the release has been up to this point.
Sorry, Parsnip. Apparently it's the wrong Barbarian movie. There was another one that came out.
Warner Brothers claims that there's a DVD and a Blu-ray out for Air.
It exists. It's just for some reason it's ridiculously expensive right now. At least the last time I looked it up.
But at the same time, it's not available on Amazon. Or, by the looks of it, any site that does shopping. Even though I'm pretty sure I've seen the box or something in a supermarket. I'm going to have to check again in the next week. And see if
the last time I looked it up, it was like $26 or something, which is pretty steep for something that's not like a Criterion or something a little more special than just its typical release.
Parsnip says, I hate high 70s on predicting BAFTAs. I got 3 wrong. Oh, sorry, I had high 70s on predicting BAFTAs, not hate. I've changed my Oscar nominations. Guess we'll all see on Tuesday. I took both Poor Things actors out of supporting. I hope Naiad will get a release. I watched it over the weekend and loved it. Glad to see somebody did.
Yes. somebody besides SAG, apparently.
So, real quick, this is for you, AJ. A website that I've never heard of called Giant Freaking Robot.
Oh, yeah.
It literally says 7 months ago, after 10 months of streaming, Barbarian will likely never release in physical media.
Okay, you know how I've been crying out to Criterion to pick up Tragedy of Macbeth since it happened?
Yes.
I will forever cry out to Arrow to fucking pick up Barbarian.
Guess we shall see.
Yes.
We
got way off track with this media.
Josie adds, my friend also joked with Chris Abbott's character, I said I wanted to be the goat, but not that kind.
Ooh, that's a spoiler.
That's fun.
Oh, Parsnip says, Parsnip says, I wish you all like Naiad more.
I never saw Naiad, Parsnip. You know that. I think I've talked about this before. I think it's funny to go to Jodie Foster and everybody else is.
I get the performances and everything. It's just the way it sort of jumps about and whatever doesn't help the telling of the story as it would with other films.
Yeah, I just really stand by it's just a really hard movie to pull off cinematically, and getting documentarians to do it probably was not gonna help that.
I mean, I say the thing about Nomadland, it didn't win Best Picture. Point proven.
Barbarian's a different. Oh, Parsnip says
no,
Barbarian film's a different movie. That's the horror film from 2022 that's on Hulu.
No, Parsnip, I did find the actual Barbarian, but like AJ said, it's probably some mark that made a fake version of it to sell on eBay for a cheaper price. So yeah, it's probably just like what we used to do with Versus back in the day, except an actual DVD instead of just the case.
Zach Kreger. Parsnip says, I have Air on Blu-ray. Air was reduced to $10 on Black Friday.
Too bad I don't buy physical media, but that would have been worth it for me.
Speaking of that, Bryce says shopping for regular Blu-rays both physically and online because a physical store is demoting it and it's expensive online.
Not as easy to find a brick and mortar store nowadays, Brian, especially with the fact that a lot of them are going away with their releases.
Also, throughout the months of November and December, I used all my money on other people for Christmas, so I missed a shitload of really good sales.
Same, but I didn't buy anything.
I missed out on the fucking Cassavetes box set again.
No.
It'll happen. Eventually, it'll happen.
Parsnip says that they wept at Naiad. Maybe it touched me in a way that's unexplainable. I just get thinking that my mum would have loved it.
You know, honestly,
it's got a personal connection, yeah. And don't get me wrong, I think that the story of what she did is, inspiring in itself. It's just the way it was presented that I felt a little disconnected from it, that I wouldn't have it in, best. I wouldn't have it in best films, but I I think there's a credence as why Benning and Foster are in the picture for their
Mess up my.
performances.
I also get the personal connection because I've made it clear that I wasn't a fan of Elvis,
Mm-hmm.
but then something changed a little bit where after she saw it, my mom said that my grandma would have loved Elvis, and for just that alone, it made me feel slightly more affectionate towards it than I was. So that happens, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, everybody knows how biased I am towards movies that attack me personally, whether good or bad ways.
Part of them going to the extreme. I took out a firm loans to get Black Friday Blu-rays and 4Ks. Oh wow.
Hey, to their own Parsnip Burger. That's the reason why I have a bunch of action figures in that corner over there that you will never see because it is such a mess. I have thousands of dollars of wrestling figures in that corner.
Part of me feels we've been doing all this because we're trying to get away from talking about lead actress.
Yeah, we were getting pretty close to the.
Boy, this is an interesting one because we have Fantasia Barrino for Color Purple, Sandra Huller for Anatomy of a Fall, Carey Mulligan for Maestro, Vivian Apara for Rye Lane, Margot Robbie for Barbie, and Emma Stone for Poor Things. So yeah, despite making the long list, Gladstone misses.
You know what? You know what's ruined this? There was this really touching video. I don't know how many people saw it, but it was like a screening room, and they were watching the Globes, and it was I'm not exactly sure what you would call them, but they were, for personal reasons, rooting for Lily Gladstone.
Okay.
Because they were part of, like, you know, like I said, I don't really know what's like what.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really touching, and she was representing them. So it was a whole room cheering in this sort of screening room for Lily Gladstone when she won her Globe.
Sure.
So now, anytime Lily Gladstone loses something, I'm going to think about those people probably all gathered around.
No.
And it's like, no, don't let her lose anymore.
So here's the fun thing. We talk about Mia McKenna Bruce and how much obviously they were gaga over How to Have Sex, nominating her for Rising Star. But when they had the chance to put her in the lineup, they don't do it, but they run with the person from Rye Lane instead. So it's interesting to see how they're kind of trying to spread the wealth a little bit. This would have been a good way to get Greta Lee into the conversation, too. Quite honest with you.
Especially, I mean, obviously, I just said I totally get behind any mention that Fantasia can get.
Same.
But when you look for the color purple in the rest of these, she seems like she came from out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Well, those are the only 2 nominations that Color Purple has.
It only has 2 acting nominations. It didn't go anywhere else. And then everybody else is
my only feeling is we do have the thing where they try and sort of ethnicize the actor awards. So it's not just all white people. And I don't know whether Fantasia made it in that way rather than, you know, Gladstone. I could see Vivian making it in being the sort of the British skew entry.
That's the only reason it makes sense to me. But if they liked Mia Bruce that much, then why wouldn't they put her in that spot?
Because you've got the heavy hitters that are Huller, Mulligan, Robbie, and Stone.
That seems to be your 4 right now at this point. There seems to be no way that's not going to be your 4. And then the 5th one should be Gladstone, but we don't know. I don't think in the long run this is going to be a big, like, detriment to Gladstone getting in Tuesday. I feel that it probably will end up being the same 5 we already expected for, but then you've got people like Benning who could have made it in here and didn't. and everybody else seems to be just who we're expecting.
It's interesting. I really thought I was taking a massive swing for the fences the first time I talked about Hewler getting double nominated. It's quite interesting how more and more likely it's getting.
Yeah, completely.
Because usually that's like people that are really big names and recognizable names, like Scarlett Johansson or Al Pacino. By the way, I was talking about when we had that conversation the first time. I was talking about people who had done it in the past, and I was like, there was a recent one. Who was the recent one? I never said Jamie Foxx.
Yeah.
So he's obviously a big one, also. And like Scarlett Johansson, Jamie Foxx was also one where it was like their first nominations ever happened. Their first two nominations ever happened simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be Hewler's case as well.
Yeah.
So, but obviously Jamie Foxx and Scarlett Johansson were still very recognizable names at the time. So it's very interesting somebody like Hewler could do this when only kind of I feel like a niche group of moviegoers know who she is right now.
True.
She was for me for the longest time. I think before this year, she was just the woman from Tony Airman to me. That's all I called her.
So you had an Alfred Molina situation with her that I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then to leading actor, where we have Bradley Cooper for Maestro, Common Domingo for Rustin, Paul Giamatti for Holdovers, Barry Keoghan for Saltburn, Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer, and T.O.U. for Past Lives.
Again, a conversation that we've all had that at one point all of us have predicted everybody on that list.
Except Jeffrey.
Once. No Jeffrey, right?
Did one of us predict T.O.U. at one point? I never did.
I thought somebody did. Either that or it's always been in the conversation. No one dove on it.
Yeah.
There was a while where all the other Past Lives ones that sort of got jumped on, but not you to the same extent. But he was always considered to be in the picture.
We've always talked about him. I didn't know. I thought somebody went with him, but I don't have every month in front of me. It's mine. I never went with it.
At the very beginning, like in the first couple of months, I was backing John Magaro.
Yeah, I remember that.
But I never said you.
And Andrew Scott not getting in here is kind of this, like, it's interesting.
I feel that Barry took Andrew Scott's spot. I feel.
Yeah, that looks or T.O.U. depending on how you're looking at it. It depends. It's one of those two for sure.
No, to me, T.O.U. is the Jeffrey Wright. Again, it's the ethnicity. Oh. It's the ethnicity quota.
Does not need to be that way, but I understand what you're talking about. Decap would never end this conversation apparently, and then he'll make it in on Tuesday. And everybody's gonna be like, "I told you, make it."
I do find it interesting that if you were to tell me one of Jeffrey Wright and Coleman Domingo was going to miss, Wright would not have been my guess.
No. I mean, I can't say anything about Rustin, and I have been trying to discount it pretty much all season, but I did kind of cave on the final predictions when we did the 23 to put him in here, and AJ has assured me that he belongs here. But the thing is, when you're trying to predict something, it's very hard to, when you think you have a 5, as everyone here knows, it's hard to deviate from that sometimes until you get like ironclad proof that you're definitely wrong and this will happen. But Jeffrey Wright in here makes no sense.
Yeah, because Domingo, I don't want to gross you guys. I coughed something up for a second. I got.
If you need to sort it out, do so.
Domingo wouldn't make my personal top 5 or anything, but I was surprised by how much of a transformative performance it was.
He could have had a really good year too, with The Color Purple and Rustin and Drive Away Dolls all coming out in the same year. But that was
Yeah,
not to be.
like I alluded to before, also, it's like kind of it helps that he has The Color Purple because you can see when you look at both how different those performances are. Like I said, I was discounting how long Domingo's been in the industry because I kind of feel like people have only just started taking notice of him, but he's been around for a very long time. But when he was first really starting to get like when you really started hearing his name a lot, is when you saw performances like Zola and Candyman, where he played big scary people. It was when he did his Actors on Actors with Jacob Elordi that it was like, oh shit, Coleman Domingo's been around for a really long time. But did I glitch out?
A little bit.
How bad did I glitch out just now?
Lordy.
I was saying when Coleman Domingo did the Actors on Actors with Jacob Elordi is when I was realizing, oh damn, Domingo's been around a really long time.
Yeah.
But if because I never knew about him being on Euphoria, so I guess that's something else that has really brought him into the spotlight. So and it's why they were paired together. So yeah, if it's TV, I don't know a lot. So if somebody's been prevalent for a long time through TV, when they start doing movies, it'll be like, oh, where'd that person come from?
To the chat real quick.
Mm-hmm. Bry for actress has Gladstone, Huller, Mulligan, Robbie, and Stone. And then actor matches SAG on their prediction. And Bry said TOU last month. But that wasn't always in the hunt. But Parsnip says, I think if AJ was more willing to be personable with his fans, they might send him Blu-ray since we know he's a collector. Also,
well, typically when people do,
go ahead.
Typically when people do that, they do the PO box thing.
Mm-hmm. I was getting ready to say that.
And I don't know. I just feel like I'd be like May, December when they get boxes of shit mailed to them. That would happen.
Yeah.
So.
Also, I like Parsnip saying for maybe you and Ashley as well, but AJ seems more into the physical media side.
Do you see the background that Ashley has literally behind him?
Do you want these?
I've always assumed a lot of those were video games, but I really have no idea.
I mean, some of them are.
If he touches one, it's gonna topple. Come on, let's go.
Some of them are. You know, Jackass the Game's here.
Nice.
And Disney Pixar's Bug's Life. And Robot Wars. And some football stuff. But then there's French Connection 1 and 2, the Dirty Harry Collection, Brick, Chicago, Let the Right One In. Whole load of wrestling stuff. Practically every single James Bond is somewhere within just that bit. Probably not including No Time to Die. Yeah, Spectre's in there.
So
yeah, the thing with me is I'm not a gamer at all. And all of my TV stuff is in a cabinet over there, so everything you see in my background is just movies.
I mean, honestly, if you guys start a fund to get me to Miami to go see Taylor Swift on the floor, I'd take that. But other than that, probably nothing comes to mind.
Parsnip again mentioning these.
And there's a separate. Everybody will notice like these are all DVDs, and it's like, oh, are you like a caveman? The Blu-ray shelves are like right in front of me.
Yeah.
You can like barely see them in the review videos, but the Blu-rays are separated.
Parsnip says, as usual, the 50% off sale in November and July. I really want the Olympic set and the Ingmar Bergman sets. My most expensive item is the Herschel Gordon Lewis set from Arrow. That's worth $500 on eBay because it was a limited 500 edition. They did another set, but the 500 was the limited, special one.
I
I got the Bergman box set unexpectedly gifted to me. Otherwise, I probably would not have it yet. Anyway,
the biggest one I have, AJ probably knows this, other than having every single season of Seinfeld on DVD. The big thing I've got is when Time Life did the Get Smart television series. I have the box set that's basically like open in, open in. It's the phone booth, and you have to open it many ways to get everything out of it. So that's one of the cooler, more expensive DVD items that I own. I'm still in the DVD era, and I am not watching anything. It's all under my bed somewhere, or back where I used to live.
like me though, you are sitting on a Dogma DVD.
I am.
Which is,
the good one too.
Pastor Balls says, I also cried at No Hard Feelings. No shame.
So did I, Parsnip Burger, but if you know, you know.
Imagine,
it doesn't take me.
Imagine if Stone or Gladstone got lead, but Sandra Huller wins supporting.
The Wells.
Parsnip says Paul Giamatti's is your
I just have a really.
Go ahead.
I would honestly. I don't want it to sound like I'm hating on Randolph.
It would be interesting.
But just for the sheer miracle of it, I would almost celebrate if Randolph lost to anybody. Like I said, just for the sheer miracle of it. So it's just not going to happen.
No.
Bry says, I didn't realise that Huller was in Tony Erdmann. I did see it, but I don't remember much of it because it was so long.
That's a long movie, yeah.
She's the main character. Come on.
Funny.
I know Andrew Scott didn't get in at BAFTA, but All of Us Strangers did get director, both supportings and adapted, so it's minor strength. I mean, it got more,
visibility.
It got more recognition.
I don't think we're
more recognition at the Independent Awards. So
I don't think we're not saying it's bad for All of Us Strangers that Scott missed. Just how weird it is that Scott missed is the point we're making.
Josie says it still doesn't mean that Scott won't make it in Tuesday.
I would be okay with it. I'd like to be wrong on that. See, that's the thing, Josie, that I'll say right now, as it looks like Ashley might either be glitching out or looking at the screen, can't really tell. Needless to say,
I'm looking at chat.
At the end of the day, honestly, there's not much. We went from last year, which again does not exist in many ways, but to my least favorite movie, overperforming in every single way of the word, to this year where there is nothing I don't like or love that's in this conversation. With the exception of stuff like Maestro, May, December, and Zone of Interest, which I haven't had a chance to see yet. But I can't see me disliking Maestro. Zone of Interest hopefully will keep me occupied enough to enjoy. And May, December, I remember the Mary Kay Letourneau story, so I feel that it's going to be done really well. So I'm curious to see how that pans out. But there's nothing that is going to surprise me in this lineup. I like or love everything that could possibly get nominated. So there's not a big oh my God, Owen's so mad because you're not getting that this year because I like most everything. It feels weird to say that, but I do.
Here's the thing, though, is let's say Andrew Scott gets into actor, which is not impossible. Can you still hear me this far away?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're in your lounging time. I get it. Take it home, brother.
So before this, we would have said if Andrew Scott gets in, it's at the expense of Coleman Domingo.
Not now.
Do we think that's still true?
Depends on how much they love the performance. And it's clear that it's going everywhere, so it tells me that there's interest in it.
Yeah, because we could say they would love American Fiction too much to go with Domingo over Wright, but we're literally talking right now about how sometimes the math just doesn't add up and how something could happen to where, like, if American Fiction did really well, and let's say even Sterling K. Brown got in. If
Yeah.
Sterling K. Brown got in and Wright didn't,
That'd be surprising.
but it's not impossible.
No, of course not.
It's also not impossible because the actor race and the supporting actor race are two totally different races.
For sure.
So when you look at it as if Sterling K. Brown gets the supporting actor, it's not surprising. And if Jeffrey Wright misses actor, it's also not surprising. But for both of those to happen would look weird, where you would say American Fiction did so well, why would Jeffrey Wright miss? But when you look at them individually, it makes more sense. But if you look at it as a math problem, you're like, what the fuck happened?
Like Jefferson getting into BAFTA and that being the only love for American Fiction actually makes sense to me, weirdly enough. It doesn't feel like it would, but it does, because that screenplay is so strong that no matter if no acting performances made it, and the movie didn't make it in general, that script speaks for itself, especially if you've seen the movie.
Well, I feel like it's a little weird that it underperformed so much at BAFTA because American Fiction feels so... I mean, you could say, it's racially charged in a certain way, but at the same time, it feels pretty universal.
Yeah, I agree with that.
There's a reason it won TIFF's Audience Award.
I can vouch for the fact that I've seen 2 sold-out screenings of it, and both of them had different reactions, but they both were positive.
Yeah, there's things especially the stuff with his mom.
Mm-hmm.
There's stuff in there that's universally relatable.
Yeah.
So
dancing with her got a great reaction both times.
And then the estranged brother relationship could be relatable to a lot of people. So
he's one of my favorite performers of the year for sure.
So I am curious what made it underperform here exactly, but unless it's just a case where there's going to be one movie that they kind of lean towards that other awards bodies won't, like in this case, All of Us Strangers.
Mm-hmm. Sure, I can see that.
If it's just, yeah. So I don't know.
And we continue with
this has gone. Yeah, this has gone a lot longer than I thought we would.
Oh my god.
Parsons says TOU's probably in 6th place.
That sounds accurate.
Josie mentioned
I don't know.
Josie mentioning Scott could go the way of Kristen Stewart with Spencer from a few years back. Also saying I actually saw American Fiction today, really biting satire. My mom said she thinks Jeffrey's got one of the best speaking voices.
Yes.
Why else does he narrate a load of things?
It's so good. So good.
Having said what I did earlier about Connections and loving Nye, I don't know, had feelings. I felt the opposite about Saltburn. I admit it's a well-made film, but I hated all the characters. My problem is maybe that's what we're supposed to.
Yeah.
I think everybody in that, there's nobody likable in that cast, and that's what I think what makes it so well. I mean, I love Carrie, but I mean, you're not supposed to like that character anyway.
Oh, Parsons says I can't find AJ's Barbarian on IMDb. Who's the director? It's the one from 2022, right?
Which one? Barbarian? Yeah, Zach Greger.
Yeah.
Just look for the word Justin Long in the mentions. That's the right movie.
I was just going to point out how much I love watching Richard E. Grant watch Superbad. In Saltburn.
Oh my god, tell me about it. I got an interesting reaction when I watched it theatrically. I got to see that in a sold-out theater. That was entertaining as all get out. And you could hear a pin drop in that bathtub scene.
So I don't. That's one movie where I don't know that I would want to watch it in a sold out theater.
Parsnip says I've seen all of Euphoria, and then I guess on the discs, I'm worried, and I don't want to send any to Ashley because I'm worried that they might fall on him. They did once, one time. Thing is, that isn't all of it. There's some there, there's some there, room there, room there, room down there. There's too much.
This is the first time I've BAFTA statue looks like Sylvester Stallone and Rocky. Yeah, it does.
AJ, even going back to when Owen had to beg him to be on YouTube, always thinks the worst about YouTube. There are bad people, but I'm sure a lot of people have liked you over the years too. You should read more comments.
It's picking up on that slowly but surely.
Yeah, I don't. My brain is just taught itself to always expect the worst out of people. But I appreciate the sentiment and the encouragement to pursue that.
And Parson says
Carson Berger, I'm
Randolph is
very
more
happy
chance.
that he is still here after all these years, to be quite honest with you.
Parson says Randolph's got more chance to lose a BAFTA than an Oscar.
If there's any up going to happen, it's this one.
Barry Keoghan did stop the Quan train for a second.
Yeah,
that is true. Yeah, he did. I was super happy about that.
Well, it's really funny, and when I hate to rain on your parade, but I was actually going to use Quan as an example. I was actually going to use Quan as an example of a way in which it makes sense to me that a sweep happened, even though I still believe he was in the wrong category, that he's leading, but I don't mind it.
Emily have said that Emily Blunt's character is underwritten, but I actually think her performance and character is a lot more complicated than people credit for. Says Josie. I mean, you know, maybe there's a chance that I can't even say British skew now because I've got it perfectly there. We got the blunt bias.
I talked basically about everything in the review video for Oppenheimer, but when we do if we pick the nominees and winners, I'll get to really go into that performance some more. And so I talk about how it's more than just the hearing scene, as even though the hearing scene is kind of the peak of it. But
Maestro and May December okay, but not favourites. I enjoyed it, but can't see me watching them over and over. And then favourite movies I would return to from this season over and over are Holdovers, Naiad, Teacher's Lounge, and Air. Still not seen Poor Things. All the others are just okay. Oppenheimer's great, but it's too long to rewatch often.
I love The Holdovers. I love Air. I love Poor Things. I've seen it twice now. Oppenheimer I watched literally 24 hours apart. That was an amazing situation. Got to see Oppenheimer in the right format. The only better format to see it is it was the IMAX version of the millimeter version. And I was only one theater showing that, and I couldn't get to it, or I would have. So I saw it in the second best format that Nolan wanted for that movie. So I was happy with that.
Yeah, I missed out on the Barbenheimer thing because I decided to just watch Oppenheimer twice. But I did recently order Barbie on Blu-ray, and it got here yesterday. So now that I own both of them, I am gonna do the Barbenheimer thing.
Went to Hard Rock, and then we went to a late Oppenheimer.
No, if it.
Sorry, I want to make sure because somebody cut out there. I want to make sure you weren't wanting to say something.
I wasn't saying anything.
Okay, so did Oppenheimer, and then the next morning I woke up, I did Barbie, and then did Oppenheimer again, and then I finished the day with Barbie, and they were all sold out showings, and they were phenomenal, and I just, being in those theaters just was perfect. There's a lot of things I really enjoyed this season, Parson and Berger, but we'll talk about that.
And Parsnip has the 4Ks of both as well.
Nice.
Bry has Gerwig, Scorsese, Nolan, Lanthimos, and Glazer for director.
Are we overestimating Glazer here? That's the question.
Like I said, did everybody in the world start dogpiling on it as we got to make sure we get this one in, and then it's gonna.
No, we'll get to direct. We might as well bring it up because
Lanthimos missed BAFTA.
Yeah,
So
the list of 6 for the director was Cooper for Maestro, Glazer for Zone of Interest, Andrew Hay for All of Us Strangers, Nolan for Oppenheimer, Payne for The Holdovers, and Trier for Anatomy of a Fall. No Greta, no Lanthimos, which I think was the bigger surprise.
That's a huge surprise, honestly.
And lo and behold, there's Bradley Cooper.
Fair.
I don't know what to do with you, Cooper. I'm glad in less than 2 days this will be fucking over.
Parsnip saying, I think you overestimating Yorgos for an Oscar nom. I don't think he'll get it.
It's
well, again,
weird
we're not talking that today. We're talking the fact that he missed BAFTA. That's the big surprise.
Yeah.
Oh, and also Parsnip has Greta admitting Oscar as well. But yeah, I expected one of the British films to make it in, and All of the Strangers is a good fit. But yeah, technically you've got 2 foreign language films here, which doesn't usually happen with BAFTA. Then again, I'm trying to think back, because didn't they... Oh no, it has been 6 ever since.
See, we're making up for what tomorrow's show going to be, because tomorrow's going to be a lot of like recaps.com. So this is going to make up for tomorrow's show, and then you'll get every bit of information you want at 6 p.m. on Tuesday night.
What I find interesting though is on the long list, all the acting stuff was 10, and the picture stuff was 10, but director was 15. Why wasn't it 10 as well?
I mean, Jefferson, Greta, Scorsese, like Lanthimos, they were all in there. Emerald Fennell, they were all on the long list. But Maestro, you are a conundrum, my friend. Bradley Cooper, you are a conundrum. And I can say that because I literally do know you. You know what I mean?
I noticed we're starting to cut out more. I wonder if that's technology's way of saying we've gone too long.
Tap it a wrist. Put the soda bottle on top of the
We're trying to get Oppenheimer levels here again, which I figured we were going to do because we were going to touch on long list, although we haven't really touched on it that much.
Yeah, we have. We basically talked about it periodically throughout the game.
And then for best film, The Five are Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things.
Barbie not being here makes sense. Maestro not being here makes sense. Past Lives not being here makes sense. Just buying what else came, what didn't get it, what got in and what didn't. All of Us Strangers is interesting. And the Zone of Interest is a tad bit interesting as well. But I don't
what
have
you're saying is this is what you're saying with all that is this is a really good mention for Anatomy of a Fall.
Heck yeah, it is. The fact
I said my whole piece. I said my whole piece about the holdovers at the beginning, so that's basically the best that I had.
I'll just say this. For those that don't know what it is, when they hear the name Anatomy of a Fall getting so many nominations on Tuesday morning, they're going to be really confused and they're not going to know what it is. But then you have people that have been doing their research since the beginning of this and realize that this thing was always in the race, and now we just have clarification.
So yeah, in terms of the full nominations, Oppenheimer took 13 of the 15 from the long list.
Good God.
Poor Things.
Yeah, visual effects. Hi.
Poor Things had 11 out of 14. Killers of the Flower Moon had 9 out of its 15. Zone of Interest also got 9. Maestro got 7 of its 12. Also for 7 noms, we've got Anatomy of a Fall and Holdovers. All of Us Strangers got 6, and then, as we previously mentioned, Barbie only getting a third of its recognition. And technically, Saltburn, you could say have 6 if you count Elordi's Rising Star nom, but 5 outright. I say that because if I find it here, yeah, Bry's nominations list has Oppenheimer with 13, Killers of the Flower Moon with 11, Poor Things with 10, Barbie with 9, Zone of Interest 8, Maestro 7, Holdovers 6, and then American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall 4, Spider-Man with 3, and then Color Purple, Past Lives, Rustin, 20 Days in Mariupol, and American Symphony getting doubles. Bry has also mentioned, which means I've got to get the second screen experience. And I'm getting bombarded with stupid things on Amazon. Thanks, Fire Tablet. Bry's posted on the Discord about the nomination predictions that we had for our stuff. Yeah, so AJ, you have Oppenheimer and Poor Things both with 13, Barbie with 10, Kills the Flower Moon with 9, and Maestro with 8, with Holdovers and Zone of Interest on 5. Wow. I had Oppenheimer with 12, Poor Things with 11, Barbie and Kills the Flower Moon with 10, and Maestro with 9, with Zone of Interest on 6 and Holdovers on 5. That seems to be a trend. And then Owen has Oppenheimer 13, Poor Things 12, Barbie 11, Maestro and Killers of the Flower Moon with 9, American Fiction and Zone of Interest with 5, and Holdovers with 4.
I'm gonna kick myself for not putting Holdovers in editing. I just got a feeling, and not putting Sessa in here. After hindsight being 2020, I feel like it's probably a smart move.
I'm not feeling at all good about leaving Pain out. If I haven't made that clear already.
You know.
I'm trying to remember. I guess we were talking about a score. I don't know if it was a Scorsese or whatever, but it just says Parsnip saying that's why he's endangered at the Oscars.
I think we're talking about Lanthimos, actually.
Yeah.
Because that's what we were talking about at that point.
Yeah, probably, might be, yeah.
You made that comment.
For director, Josie's predicting Glazer, Lanthimos, Nolan, Scorsese, and Trier.
It's got visibility now. It's possible.
I'd adore 20 Days in Mariupol getting a nod for Best Picture, but it won't. And Josie's heading to bed, which is a good move. Because we probably do as well. So we'll be back tomorrow to discuss the guilds that we can, being DGA, PGA, and SAG, and the stuff that came out of that.
Yes.
And then Tuesday will be live reactions from me, as live reactions from Owen and AJ. and then we'll meet up at the usual time of 6 Eastern to actually discuss them collectively and whatever. And then in theory, that's nothing awards-wise to touch on until we predict the guilds before the first of those gets presented on the 10th of February. And BAFTA predictions.
Probably the week before.
BAFTA predictions. Thank you for the notification. BAFTA predictions, probably the week after that, and Spirits probably the week after that, because that's the next bit of 3 ceremonies, one after the other after the other. Case in point as well, David Tennant's hosting the BAFTAs, they've announced. It should be good. And we've got Zazie Beetz and Jack Quaid presenting the nominations on Tuesday as well.
Oh, real quick before we go any further, I will say that last year, especially, I had the biggest issue trying to get my predictions up because for some reason it took forever to get up. I'll try to get them online as soon as I can, but it's sometimes kind of difficult. I won't lie. So I will probably be the last one to get a video up, but I will say that I can assure you that it will be exactly on time when I watch the actual thing.
And pass it by
and get well soon, Parsnip.
Yeah, with your COVID problems. In terms of other stuff, I've got a few videos that I need to make to buffer the gap between Wednesday and today. So they'll be showing up over the next day or so.
Yeah. They'll go right up on my Twitter too to promote them.
You've got AJ's movie reviews and versus archives you can get to. You know, obviously the review videos will be coming as soon as AJ is fit and ready to. Owen's got Sip and Snacks and Voice of Liberty content. And then you can also catch up on movie clubs. And hell, go back to live reactions that we've done over the years to the actual Oscars.
See how we get older and wiser as we move on every season.
Or vice versa. I don't know. In terms of social medias, I can be found on Twitter X at Ash is my name UK. Owen can be found at Sir Owen Disney. And the Popcast Network is also there on the socials. AJ cannot be found on social media. And just like Keith Richards is amazed that maybe I'm amazed as a Paul McCartney and Wings song. That's the wrong one. Anyway, that's my segue. Thank you, everybody.
We have now been the link.
Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. And until tomorrow, everybody. The lizard is massive. Wait, that's a frog, not a lizard. Ah!